Oh, there you go. We're
Oh, there we go.
live, everybody.
What
Welcome.
up?
Good morning, Europe.
Amit's going to be back in a second. I don't know what he's doing. He said he's got to do something for his mom. You know, he's been taking care of his mom.
So we got two special guests.
Yeah, we got Crossroads, and we got Crossroads coming to us by way of where again?
Right north of Houston, Texas, basically.
Right north of Houston. I wish I could switch you guys, Curse Patel and Sonny. And then we have the one and only Sonny Coates.
What's up, everyone? How's everyone doing? Nice to talk to you guys.
Can we get some background? Can you guys start with a little bit about starting with Sonny? Tell us why
wait, dude. We also got to say hi to all the people in Europe.
I just said hi, Europe.
We are live now in Europe for the first time. Let's see all you guys in the chat. Let everybody know where you are. Where are you guys in the chat? This will be interesting to see where everybody is. Yeah, can you see the chat? You should pull up the link, Sonny, because people will definitely be talking to you. But anyway,
I need to post it or something.
I'll send you the link in the private chat. You should be able to see this in the private chat. I think you should. Everyone on stream. So tell me if you see.
Voila.
Perfect. So hello everybody. This is a really early, our first international edition, I guess, of the Finance Junkies. Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us. Sonny, I was just asking you before we went live. You're in Paris, France right now. Can you give us an idea of what's going on out there? Is it as bad as my Twitter feed looks?
No, your Twitter feed definitely is hyped up. Like if I were to turn the camera around right now, I'm in the center of Paris. In the suburbs, this is where things are a little more active. But if you were to turn the camera around, you'd see people sipping champagne, having picnics. Nothing's happening.
So then what are we seeing? What are we seeing on the news? Where is all is this in other words, are you saying that this is more concentrated than it seems?
If you were to compare to the United States, it's kind of it's in the suburbs. So Paris is like in the center, and then there is this huge highway that encircles it. And on the periphery, the suburbs, which is where the kind of lower income housing is. The people of the lower economic standing. This is where the incident happened, and this is where the kind of rioting is relegated right now. So that's what's happening.
I mean, it's very similar to like how the media tends to portray a lot of cities too. Like I hear like New York City is on the decline, and you see like the worst parts of like certain neighborhoods, and it's like, oh, this is the entire city. But then like you go during the weekend to like Central Park, and it's just everyone with dog like strollers and dogs around. I mean, yeah, I'm sure that it's not as safe as it was 20 years ago, but it's not as bad as people think also, and I'm sure that's like that with LA as well, right? Carlos, or is it just as bad as the media showing it?
The thing about LA is 100 square miles, so the distances really are great. But like if you're in Brooklyn, I don't know. I mean, I guess that there is a little bit of that, but I felt safer in Manhattan in the 80s than like I would now. Like in Manhattan in the 80s, and Vitaly can attest to this. It was like a dumpster. It was like XX, literally peep shows in the middle of this. I felt safe there. My parents would let me walk around there. I don't know. It
was definitely worse though in the 80s. Now it's like Disneyland.
Less guns.
Yeah. Well, you're saying in Midtown?
Yeah. The peep shows are sort of now relegated to maybe a few of them. And we were driving there yesterday.
Because you worked with Ricky Gervais, right?
And we were talking about the peep shows. Like, where are all the peep shows?
They're gone, dude. I don't even see them anymore. There was like a few strip clubs the last time I was there, but they're all of Midtown. Now
everything's pushed off to the side. So it's all like Disney World right now, basically.
You can't even drive in Midtown anymore.
It's hard.
By
the way, the city's back. It's people who say like COVID is a problem. It is not. Everybody's out. Everybody's spending money. They're going crazy there in Manhattan. The restaurants are packed. We couldn't even we had to walk 4 avenues over to get a proper cab because we didn't want to sit in traffic.
Look at these first world problems. He's like, can you believe
just saying.
I had to walk 4 blocks?
I don't like walking.
Yeah, here in Houston, it's just slamming. So it does not seem like people are thinking it's a recession at all. Like they're not acting like it, but
no one's acting like it.
The streets are packed here. It's nothing but tourism. Much to my chagrin, it's just the area I live in is packed with tourists. So this is crazy. It's madness here right now. It's chaos.
Yeah, I mean, is this recession coming, Sonny, or is it over?
I think it's a nuanced question. I think it is coming for certain people. It's
That's
coming for certain sectors,
that's very true.
and
Okay.
for other people, there's no recession in sight. It's like a very dystopian in that way.
Yeah,
From my
that is
perspective.
definitely the line of the episode. The recession is coming, but only for certain people.
For certain people.
There it
Yeah.
is. What up, Patel? What's going on?
Nothing much, man. How's everything with you?
I'm good.
I see you're enjoying
cheers,
a nice
everybody. It's
coffee.
super early, right?
Tally.
I got my
Yeah,
Starbucks.
man, it's nice to see you after it's been
Yeah.
a while.
Nice to talk to you in the flesh for the first time, probably.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, but it feels like I've already talked to you so many times that I don't
Sure.
even, and I've seen your podcast too, so I feel like maybe
Wow.
it's that what is that social thing when parasocial thing that's going on here? Yeah.
I don't know.
you said-
I get that. I get that. I had that with Amit the first time I got on the phone with him, and I couldn't see his face. It felt weird because I only had ever spoken to him on video. chat.
Sonny, I'm not sure anyone told you, man, but you really do have like a podcaster's voice. Like, like you could see yourself listening to you like while driving down like the highway and just be like, oh, yeah,
Listen, I'm sure he does. What are you talking about? You
Yeah,
think Sonny's
yeah.
not in the car?
He's right. Listens to himself, right?
I do listen to myself.
He's got that Earl Jones in a world. Say in a world.
Guys, I mean, you know what? People have told me that I have some kind of radio voice, but
It's called sultry voice, But I figured it's a thing with like Europeans. Europeans, a lot of Europeans have that like sultry. Just
Are you European or are you American?
No, I'm American. I mean,
You
my
are?
family is European. My roots are French, but I'm born in Los Angeles, California, dude.
Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could
East
be a
Coast
host
versus
for
the West Coast.
you could be a host for a jazz station or something. Just at night,
You too.
late night.
You
Easy
too.
listening.
Crossroads. Crossroads has a jazz. Like he has
Hey.
a really good podcasting. voice, too.
FFJ, Finance Junkies.
All right.
Coming to you. Wow, we got people from, what do we got? We have people from South Carolina. We have people from India. We have people from Singapore, Switzerland, Midland, Texas. This is interesting. Illinois. All right. Bangkok, Germany, Philippines.
Bangkok.
Switzerland,
Across the
Singapore, India. Wow. It's crazy.
Berlin.
Love it.
It's crazy.
International, man.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. It's a little early for me. I don't know. It's
I hear
all
some
like,
static from somebody. I'm not sure who it is.
Hope it's not me.
Yeah. Yeah, that too.
Still.
Let me see.
Everybody.
I'm gonna mute. That's not me. Anyone, just mute your mic just to see who it is. Sonny, is that you?
It's Sunny. I think it's Sunny.
I didn't mute.
There's a little
at the
button
bottom.
on the bottom of the StreamYard to mute.
Oh,
It can be something at the bottom.
Yep.
It's you.
Yep.
You see what your sultry voice broke the fucking mic.
You might want to turn. Yeah, you might want to see what's up with that.
Yeah.
But Crossroads, while he figures that out, give us a little background on you. Who are you? Where are you
I'm
from?
Crossroads. My first name is Roy. I'm actually born and raised in Alaska. So
Oh.
we've done a lot of moving, but grew up there. I went to college there, met my wife there, and we've lived in now Memphis, Tennessee, Nebraska, Virginia, and now here in Houston, Texas. And hopefully we're done moving for a good long time. I'm working on a PhD and about to finish that up. Less than a year. It may be as low as 5 or 6 months, but I really just have to. Right now, I'm like investing a whole lot of time in it, but it's like, man, it's tiring. It's a lot. So I've got 3 kids, and my wife and I have been married 21 years now. So we're just enjoying the stage of life where we don't have to, change diapers and all that stuff. So
PhD in what?
Nice.
I forget. I think we talked about
it's Bible exposition, believe it or not.
Right.
I
I remember now. I remember
yeah,
that episode.
I was a pastor for quite a few years, enjoyed doing that, bivocational pastor in just small town in Nebraska. I had my own business that really, paid for the bills and everything, but just enjoyed doing that. We had a couple of church starts for ethnic churches. There was, in that area, is about 70% Hispanic, and a lot of them were first generation. And we started a church for that group. And then we had some legal refugees from the Burma, Myanmar area, actually refugee camps in Thailand, that were the Karen people, not Korean, but Karen. And they were here in the United States for the first time and knew English, decently, but they were getting taken advantage of by a lot of people. Like they're paying ridiculous amounts for car insurance just because they thought they had to pay that for car insurance. People were taking advantage of them as far as buying houses and stuff. It's like, hey, we love you guys. Let's get to know you. We'll help you start a church as well, and just acclimate to American life, because they didn't know how to operate like what an oven is, what a microwave is, all these different things. When looking at houses and stuff, they didn't know what to look for. They didn't know what a fair price is. And it was really funny in this little community because so the Hispanics, like when we were leaving, we did this big garage sale, and the Hispanics, like there'd be some little old ladies that would come and they'd be haggling me from this, dollar price tag down to like 10 cents. And it was really important. I was like, you can just have it. No, 10 cents, 10 cents. Okay. And the current would be like, oh, $1, I'll give you $2. And it's like, so with them, I'd have to do like reverse haggling and be like, okay, I've got the price tag of 60. You want to give me 80? How about $20?
You're like, watch Wolf of Wall Street. There will be a quiz.
Yeah, it was fun though. And yeah, look forward to getting back into that again. But I've been investing for a while, but this is the first, since 2020 was the first time I dipped my toe back into individual stocks. It's when I was graduating college, it was right in the .com bust time, right in that. And then 2008 was the next time when I was finishing up my master's degree. I'm like, I'm just going to be doing index funds. So I've got most of that, but I've got some individual funds that I've been working with since 2020.
Well, to make use of the time, because we don't have too much time with Sonny, part of the reason we're here to talk ENOVIX, and ENOVIX is one of TJ Rogers' latest endeavor. And if you watch me and Vitaly, you know about his other first major endeavor, which was Enphase. And Sonny was a major investor early in Enphase, and it's done very well for you, and it's afforded you a certain kind of lifestyle. And so for those of you who don't know who Sonny is, well, actually, if you I think Johnny posted it. If you're a member of our Discord, he's pretty active in the Discord, dropping some truth bombs. So why don't you just tell the people who don't know who you are a little bit about you, how your backstory with Enphase, and then take us into Inovix, please.
All right, so can you guys?
You're really low.
No, bring it up. Bring it up louder.
Okay. How about now? And is there static?
No.
Can you guys hear me okay?
A little louder, in fact,
louder,
I would say.
Turn it up a little bit more, okay?
Yeah, don't worry. We get a little static.
If it's a little static, it's fine.
All right.
Good.
Yeah, I'm just a humble investor. It's simple. I started investing in earnest in around 2015 in things. I started, in retail, losing money here and there. One should always invest in things that they're passionate about, is what I always tell people. And I'm a big science fiction head. And so solar energy has always been a topic of fascination for me since I was a boy, because it's poetic. It's fucking poetry. Photons spilling on your roof, powering your home. It's like ethereal magic. And so I knew there was going to be the future because it's for free. Energy's falling on your roof for free. You're not going to take advantage of this. And so, yeah, I just started intuitively investing in names that stuck out to me, doing research. But even to this day, I don't know the market cap of Enphase. I don't know the market cap of lots of things. It's just, I'm more like a big picture guy. I feel it. I do fundamentals. I can see they have a solid leadership team, C-suite, and you can see the market kind of growing in front of you, and you just kind of do the math. It's very easy. You just look. You see, it's not hard to see.
So why don't you tell us? Why don't you tell us what you saw early on in Enphase and compare that to what you're seeing now in Inovix, in terms of leadership and trajectory of the company? Because look, people don't know. I can explain. Maybe you're a little too humble. He went pretty big on Enphase early on, like sub $1, and he got to ride it up and put in a substantial amount of money. And so it's retired you, Sonny. Like now you are retired. You're financially independent, and you have been since Enphase, what, $25? Would you say in 2020, 2019?
I'd say that's a pretty good estimate.
Around then. Okay. So since right before the pandemic, you've just basically been doing you. You've been living your life.
That's really good math, dude. You really have my file. You really have my whole profile.
We did.
There. I gotta even tell you that. It's very, very good.
Well, we talked a little bit. We talked a little bit about this because when we met up in
exactly.
California,
we have whole episodes about you.
Yeah.
Carlos and I met and had drinks one day in the valley, and we kind of we went over this. But yeah, I was early on Enphase. I wouldn't say I'm early because Enphase at one point was $15 before the fall. Before they were going to go bankrupt.
It was coming straight down.
Yeah, so I got in the dip at around 93 cents.
93 cents.
Rather
everybody.
substantially. Rather substantially. Honestly, I just thought I was gonna get out at like $2. I thought I was just gonna get out $2, make the quick trade, get out like Chris, just real quick, in and out.
Sell some puts to protect that downside.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the thing,
Sonny, how many puts have you sold from now to $200?
I have no idea how to sell any puts. I don't do options. I need to kind of trade.
I mean, buy puts. I'm sorry, buy puts.
Yeah, I do nothing. I just hold long. I just
right.
see
So you bought a substantial position. Because also just so we know, how much time do we have with you right now? It is now.
Well, we got about an hour, I say.
Okay. An hour.
I got dinner. My family's visiting from Texas.
We can have a part two, I'm sure. Sonny's down to come back, right, Sonny?
Yeah, of course.
He's like, let's see how this goes. Let's see how this goes with these.
See how these guys are.
All right. So you made a substantial. You took a substantial amount of money that was no small amount that would have hurt you to lose, and you bet on Enphase.
I would have went to zero. I would have went to fucking zero. Are you kidding me?
You're not recommending to people, I'm assuming.
I don't recommend. And as a matter of fact, I don't relate with the man who made that trade. I don't know what he was thinking. It was such a foolhardy trade to make.
What was what gave you the conviction to put that much money into a company at 93 cents that was once $15? That wasn't making any money. It was on the verge of bankruptcy.
TJ fucking Rogers. I saw he got into the company, and I had been studying them because I always had this thing with names. And so the name Enphase always just stuck out to me. It just bugged me. And they were always doing poorly in earnings. I'm like, what's up with this company? Why are they always sucking in earnings? So I was following them, and then I saw that TJ Rogers got in. And I'm like, yo, who is this guy? Why is he putting millions of dollars in this company? So I started researching his pedigree. I found out about Cypress Semiconductor, and I just deeply researched hardcore. And I saw this guy is no joke. This guy's like a Marine drill sergeant or something. He doesn't. How long would
you say you were researching him? How long was that?
I was researching him maybe a couple weeks or something like that. Because I got in shortly after he got in. I just was like, yo, if this guy's in, if he loses, I lose. Okay. And he don't look like he's just throwing money away. So I got in, but the whole time I'm thinking, I'm in this for, we'll get to 2 and we get out. We just make some money and we get out. But it just kept going up. He kept replacing the C-suite with his like old Cypress Semiconductor lieutenants, like Badri. And then my conviction just kept growing. I was just like, yo, this, 3. It was really dicey for a second when we were like under $1, because you can get delisted, if the stock is under $1 for a certain amount. So there was a couple, maybe 3 weeks or a month where it was really like $1.05, 97, and I was like, yo, are we going to get delisted?
That'd have been the end.
The thing kept growing. The thing kept growing, 4, 5, 10. Then we got attacked by short sellers. We had like 3 or 4 attacks by short sellers. And then the stock would retrace 50% or something. But by then I was very convicted and I was very well researched and I knew the fundamentals of the company. So the short reports, I would just be like, this is total bullshit.
Okay, so can you take us? So now listen, we can do an entire episode, and like Vitaly said, we can probably do a much deeper dive on Enphase. But we wanted to bring this conversation to Inovix. Crossroads had a thread about tackling the short seller report that started a war essentially. So before we get there, why don't you tell us what you saw or how your early investment in Inovix, your early investment in Enphase compares to what you're seeing now in Inovix, aside from TJ Rogers. Like, what are you seeing that's similar?
Moi or Crossroads?
Yeah, well, then we'll get into the short report that's attacking. Because what we're basically saying is this looks like an Enphase 2. This looks like a repeat of what we're seeing with Enphase, both in TJ Rogers taking over the company and the trajectory of the company, where it's sitting now being attacked by short sellers. So that's where I think we can get up to speed into present day.
That's well said, Carlos. And by the way, you got to let Carlos run a little bit on this podcast about other things. He gave me a whole kind of spiel about dating and his philosophy on how to attract and bed women.
Mm.
It was very enlightening. I was like, this guy's really got a lot of interesting things. You guys,
You're
gotta
exaggerating.
expand into that.
I think he's exaggerating.
Not exaggerating at all. But so to answer your question, it does seem to be.
It was about face
an
wash.
Enphase
Yes,
2.0.
Midwest cannabis. We talked about face wash for about an hour and a half. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay, exactly. It does seem to be as similar to an Enphase 2.0. I mean, it's very nuanced, and you can never kind of exactly transpose one scenario on the other scenario.
Mhm.
But TJ Rogers is the common, variable. He's the X in the equation that's super superlative. And so you have a technology that's highly differentiated. I would say they have a crazy patent thicket. I mean, people forget about that. The patents around this technology
Innovix,
are insane.
Inovix, right?
And then you have a C-suite that's very they execute at a super high level in the semiconductor field. So you can see what's happening. It's unfolding before your eyes. I'm sure you guys are feeling it. You guys are seeing it kind of happen.
Slowly.
So.
I think it was guys like you, and it was guys like Johnny and the Discord especially that were pushing Vitaly and I. Look at this company, research this company. I think Vitaly both that were just like, kind of letting it go. And now I regret like not getting in there probably a year earlier. We could have gotten in at even better prices, Vitaly.
I did get in.
I begged
Remember, I had to
Vitaly.
buy. I did get in.
You got when they first?
No, not when they first, but I
Right.
put my buy orders in, and it executed. We had a podcast about it executing, me not being ready even for the executing orders. But it happened.
I specifically remember, I have a very clear vision of petitioning Vitaly and saying, look, you got to open an ENOVIX room. And he's like, okay, we'll see how this goes.
A channel. Right.
And it's a busy room. It's a busy channel.
Yeah, this is crazy. We're here under the bright lights, all of us. This is happening. Let's do it.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the beginning of something. Like it feels like we're out of this stage where the company needs to just prove that it deserves a seat at the table, or in that sense, like it proves that it deserves a small piece or allocation of your portfolio. Well,
I hope Sonny can just go into what is your bull case for Enphase? Is it just I'm sorry, not Enphase. I'm back to Enphase. Inovix. What's your bull case for Inovix? Is it TJ Rogers or is it something bigger than that?
Oh no, dude! It's the battery. This thing is twice as energy dense as a standard lithium ion battery. It's not a jelly roll. It's a new architecture. It has no thermal runaway. They've solved thermal runaway. And then on top of that, you add the TJ Rogers Cypress Semiconductor DNA, the new executive leadership, and how they're executing. And you that then supercharges the thesis, the real technology that's protected by patents. And you see 100, companies. I see all the mega cap companies who have been sampling their batteries. It's there in front of your eyes, almost like the Palantir thesis. So we can get into that another day. Shout out to Amit.
All right.
That'll
be another. So
this is a very smart man who's made some money in his life, and he's pretty bullish on Palantir. So if I were you, Carlson Vitaly, I would shut the fuck up and listen to him when he talks about Palantir.
Fine, since Amit said that, what is the percentage of more Inovix and Enphase to Palantir? What is it, a 10-to-1 or is it a 1-to-1 here? Are you more invested in Palantir? Yeah. Let's shut up Amit for a second.
No, Palantir is a small position for him.
Is it more invested in Palantir or are we way more in Inovix and Enphase? Which one is it?
That's a real checkmate right there from Vitaly.
Thank you.
Because I'm much more. I mean, Enphase is, I don't know, is it like 60 or 70% of my portfolio? 70, 80, and then Inovix is like 20%. Or something, 60-30.
And Palantir is a call option sliver.
It's a spec play for him. Do you understand, Amit? It's a spec play.
I know, but you know what though? Yeah. Well, and by the way, I mean the amount of money that I have in there, it probably might make someone else blush.
Right.
Maybe it's
it would. 3%. It would. I've talked to Sonny. It would.
Right. Like your 1% allocation is larger than probably everyone in the chat combined.
It's more than my pool.
You did well, but you know what? I'm looking at it. I think I may allocate more to Palantir. I think it's the best kept secret. I think it's it's the most misunderstood company with the biggest TAM that people can't even wrap their head around, with a CEO who's the most misunderstood, which is it's the fact that people don't get the guy and the company. That is the hallmark of true innovation. It's misunderstood. It's a Rubik's cube.
Let me ask you this.
Let him
straight
keep
up.
going, bro. I
just want to ask you this straight up. We're talking about CEO. You're telling me, okay, if Karp left tomorrow and Badri took over Palantir, you don't think that would make Palantir, that would 10x Palantir? I shouldn't have asked it that way. That was leading. I'm saying
Badri can't talk to Vladimir Zelensky, bro. That's not the.
Yes, this is what I was going to say. Karp is the guy you want. He is the perfect specimen for this company. He is a PhD. He's a PhD of philosophy. He's so worldly. He's also, I don't know if he's a lawyer as well.
Yeah, well, he's a doctor. He might be
philosophy doctor.
Right, but he understands.
He went to law school,
education.
I know we're going down the wrong hole. This is not that.
Okay, yeah, but very quickly, the guy is the new AI future that's opening up. It's one that's, you got to have the moralistic, the ethics, the regulatory stuff is very important. You got governments, municipalities. You need a guy like that who understands the nuance.
I like numbers.
Now, Badri wouldn't understand that. Badri's an operator. He's like a mathematician. You need a philosopher, and the guy is kind of like a mathematician. Listen to him talk about tech. Listen to Karp talk about technical stuff. He's no fucking dummy. He's no louse. The guy's sharp, man.
Can we shelf for the Palantir talk? And,
we gotta let's
because you do have like 30 minutes left, I believe. So.
Let's fast forward.
No, you guys can go. We can go probably till. Look, dinner's at 7:15. I think if I get out of here.
You're not even dressed.
Come on, he's like, I am.
I hop on a Lime scooter.
What Sonny was saying, I won't, I echo him with Palantir, but I won't go into that. But with the AI boom in the middle of it and coming, and as technology gets better, one thing that I thought was really interesting, and I don't remember which particular, if it was one of the quarterly earning calls or that special report by TJ Rogers, and he's talked about this in his other companies as well, but Moore's Law, he said several times, we believe in Moore's Law. And I was like, don't you mean Wright's Law? Because Wright's Law, is every doubling of production, you take things cost a certain percent less. And for batteries, it's like 18 to 20%. I'm like, oh, he means Wright's Law. He's talking about scalability. And no, there's actually press releases with Inovix talking about Moore's Law. And the idea is that basically what he is saying is the need for batteries is immense. And I'm old enough. I actually remember it was either 91 or 92 in the stores, because Alaska would tend to get things a little bit later, when we had the lithium ion battery basically come out and be commercial wide. And batteries have improved. It's 4-point-something% on average per year versus semiconductors. Every 2 years it doubles, or 1.5 years, depending on who you talk to. And some people are like, oh, Moore's Law is going away. It's not going away. And even if it was, with the AI boom, I mean, you look at the Apple headset. That thing is awesome, except you don't want to have that stupid cord there with a really tiny battery, and you also don't want to have a battery that's going to explode. And Enovix is just it is the best that I've researched and found that is actually able to scale. And unlike if Alex Karp was the CEO of Enovix, I wouldn't short any company, but I would short it. Battery is hard, and you have to actually be able to make it. And he's the perfect CEO.
Completely different scenario, though.
It is.
And Novix is not going to be Novix.
Yeah. But you have these guys in place now. They basically did a clean house of most of the management. Their sales team was kicking butt, but everybody else, they were struggling with being able to scale. And actually, part of that short report was a former employee that was high up that was saying, "Hey, we can't actually do these things." He's probably breaking some NDA type stuff as well, but regardless, Innovix is actually starting to scale. Whereas in the past, if you're looking at 2021, they were struggling. They couldn't actually do what they needed to do. And now they're actually starting to hit all of those benchmarks and actually exceed them. So this is a company that has the technology. There's a huge, huge need out there for it. And they're actually starting to scale, and they have a plan and a vision to actually do that.
So why don't you guys
Well
take?
said.
Why don't you
Well
guys
said.
take us through the bull case of Inovix back to Vitaly's
Well,
original question.
before you guys go into the bull case, let's talk about the opposite end, because if we don't talk about the opposite end, we just eternally talk about how great this company is, how nice it is,
Fucking
everything
Darth
is
Vader
great.
in
You know,
in the
no, you
piece.
Well,
gotta.
I wanted
No,
to
you're
get
right.
there, but
No,
I
you're
wanted to
right.
at
You're
least
right, Patel. Go
establish.
ahead. Go ahead. You're
I
right.
Because the
wanted
thing
to
is,
establish what the bull case was, so that we can talk about the short
Yeah.
report that basically said some of that was
Yeah.
lies.
Yeah,
well,
No, no,
well,
I
but
love it.
still,
I love it.
let Chris get his point in, because
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna talk about the short report in a way that like gives it the legitimacy that it wants. What I want to talk about is more on like the fundamental macro level. So number one, there are other companies that are making silicone anode batteries, right? There's the one thing that I think some people think that, oh, these guys are the only ones in the market. They're the only ones that are making these peripheral batteries. And that's not the case. There are other manufacturers that have different technologies that they're applying also. So this is not a zero-sum game where Innovix is the future and this is the only company that's going to do whatever it's doing. So that's like one thing that limits the total addressable market for a lot of things. Now, granted that there are some big differentiators between Innovix and some of these other battery manufacturers, but once again, there are other competitors. So let's just dispel that thing first. The other thing is,
Well, no, before you leave that,
yeah,
Because
when are they coming out with their battery?
that's the problem, Chris. Is that
that's
It
the thing
matters.
that's the next thing that I'm going to talk about, which is some of them already have batteries in the wild. One of the ones that I spoke about last week when we did the pod was HyperX, which is makes headphones, right? Like gaming quality headphones. They actually have a 300-hour battery life headphone set, and it uses a silicone anode battery in there. Now, is it the same level of capacity? Does it have the same benefits
Did they master
Innovix?
thermal runaway?
No. So that's the one big differentiator. So the question is, do you need the thermal runaway as a part of every single consumer grade product? Because think about it this way. If thermal runaway was the issue that prevented people from buying these batteries, we wouldn't be driving Teslas. We wouldn't be buying electric cars, because all of those have thermal runaway issues. There's a level of risk.
It wasn't considered an option.
Point.
It wasn't considered possible.
Right. But that's what
It
I'm
was
saying.
just considered part of like that,
People are willing to accept a certain level of risk as long as the price meets the need, right? So if Innovix comes out with a battery that's like $100, another company comes out with a battery that's $20, even without that safety profile, some people are going to opt for that $20 profile, right? Just like I said, it's just from an off chance. Now, there are certain industries that can't accept that risk, like the military. That's why the military, the U.S. Army, actually went with Inovix to do that deal, because unlike the consumer side, there's no risk that the military is going to want to accept with thermal runaway. So there are industries where each one of these things is going to benefit, but those are the two main things that I would say are probably the biggest detriments. And also,
but there's three. The third pillar of that is the fast charging. Well,
the fast charging, I think, can be solved in many other ways as well. Like other technologies that I'm looking at, same thing in the silicone anode space, they actually have rapid charging as well. So it's not just, once again, it's not just that Innovix has it. Like, sure, maybe it's like 20 minutes instead of 15, but like I said, there are stuff there. The other problem is the battery manufacturing, which looks like it's something that's actually being solved right now, which is actually one of those things that makes me highly bullish. Like them getting Raj Tulare from Qualcomm, I think is the biggest reason why I invested in Enovix. And I'll just be honest with you guys. I invested in them. I have 2,000 shares of Enovix. I bought it about a few months ago when we were talking with Vitaly. I think that this company has a lot of promise. I want to add more, but I'm only going to add more once I see them actually show the scalability results, where they're actually able to scale up their product and get some higher level, what is that thing called? Higher level of counterparties involved.
I do want to point out, Chris is obviously, he sounded bearish in the beginning. He has shares. The thing is, though, that I think Chris is right in terms of like dumping a lot of money. Sonny, I appreciate how you went on balls out into Enphase at $1. I don't think I could have done that, by the way. I waited till it was already sort of established and tanked to 20. So I missed the bigger run up you had, of course. Another 20x only.
Well, you got to tell people they could have easily It could have easily gone to zero. Like what I'm
when Sonny did it, when I did it already, it was already.
You had way more. You had way more conviction, but that's why you're not getting the multiple, right? But it's just for people in the chat or people watching this, not thinking that we're advocating for going all in with a huge amount of money that if you lose, you're going to zero on a company, no matter how good you think it is, no matter how good the management is. It was you hit the moonshot, Sonny, but that's not.
I'm advocating for this. Carlos.
But
I'm advocating.
Yeah, well, it's easy when you're sitting at the top of the mountain, you know?
Yeah, well, look, you're right. Well, I mean, I also did it, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you're right. Okay, objectively speaking, you got to be conservative. You can't be balls to the wall. You really could lose. You'll lose your shirt. But if you're in a growth mode, you can't be diversifying. You've got to go concentrated. And it's conviction and it's research. And this is why I recommend to people invest in things that you're interested in, because you'll be like last night. Last night at around midnight here, I was rewatching the TJ Rogers break flow video for kicks. I'm sitting there like chilling, like midnight in my draws. You know, you're not going to beat a guy like that if you're just a casual guy who's trying to make a trade, or you think you're trying to make some money. You heard the tag and ENOVIX. So the conviction that you have in things that you're passionate about, that is the thing that you can ride. You can fucking really not be diversified in and get a really big return. But it's risk. It's a certain kind of person. I'm not saying everyone should do it, but that's how you do it.
Well, you kind of did. Everyone should do. I mean, you kind of did.
I wanted to finish the point about Chris that he's also right. He has a small percentage of his portfolio. As they show more growth, by the way, if this is a real 50x and he misses the first 5 of it, big fucking deal. He's going to get still the 10 or 20x. So whatever. So that's my point. You don't need to go balls to the wall, everything in your portfolio. I love what you did, Sonny. I wish I could do it too, but Chris is still going to walk away a multimillionaire just doing it slower this way. He might not.
Absolutely.
He might not buy a 100 room mansion, but he'll be okay.
He'll have a 50-room mansion or a
He'll have a
20-room mansion.
Yeah.
He'll survive.
By the way, retirement is overrated. At a certain point, what's the thing? I heard that after $10 million, it's just kind of abstract.
It's even worse than that. After $75,000, at least in a middle class lifestyle, you stop kind of worrying too much about money if you're just living within your means.
Well, wow, it shows how young Amit is.
No, that was a Princeton study. That was a Princeton study. That was
before inflation.
Wait, in what state are we talking about?
It was a Princeton study done that for the average, not us that are trying to be millionaires, but for the average person, you make $75,000 a year, you can pay off your expenses with like $3,000-4,000, and then you're good.
I lose my house at $75,000, by the way.
Well, you're a different type of breed, right? But for the average American,
$75,000.
It was a Princeton study they did 10 years ago.
It's before inflation.
I mean, I just want to say one thing to Chris's, to what Chris said. Very well said, Chris, by the way. I really like you, man. You're really like, you got good advice. You got a good head on your shoulder. You got a good heart.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
There are going to be several players in the market as well. So there may be Amprius. There may be Inovix, Tesla. People forget Elon Musk came out advocating for the pure silicon anode battery as well. So it's a market where there are going to be several players. But right now, Innovix for the consumer market has the first mover advantage, and they have this thing called the TJ Rogers DNA, which is it's a highly impactful variable to me. So, but yeah, everything you said makes sense.
And going with what Chris said, when I looked through and I'd studied the company before I jumped right in, that is the main thing, is competition. Like all the other bear stuff is largely stuff. I mean, look at it definitely if you're thinking about investing, but for me anyway, I think it's all a bunch of baloney except for competition. But this is a very large TAM. There's going to be multiple winners. And the thing that makes Inovix unique is, well, first, they're already starting to scale. They have this plan, which they're actually about a year behind where it was, or where they were thinking that they were. But what's very unique is most of the competition is actually focused at the EV level of battery.
Exactly.
And here they're talking about, wearables and medical devices and mobile phones and laptops. And you actually have a higher premium. The only ones that I only found one or two that are actually kind of focusing at the same time on that smaller. And so it's actually based on what the company was saying itself, that it's actually you need a higher degree of precision with these smaller batteries as well. And so they're able to mass produce them. And even if when I was looking at and I don't know if they'll make an impact or how much an impact they'll make on the EV market, because the incumbents, I think, will be a large source of competition for them, and solid state batteries as well, which are a bit further out. But even if they don't win in that sphere, I think that they're poised to take a large part of the market with that smaller battery.
I just want to piggyback on that, like what my personal bull case is, and where I actually agree with the short report. Bull case, as far as I see it, is like you said, the competition is going to be there, but we're talking about a 3 to 5 year runway, and by then, Inovix can just completely scoop everybody up. And we understand something like the military.
We're shipping now, baby.
We see this right. We see this with Palantir. Once you have those, especially in the military, once you have those contracts, it's very hard. The government just continues to. Basically, it's very hard to lose those contracts. You don't lose them. So if this is the direction that they're going, this is actually very good. The real competition to Enovix's technology that would steal them away, right? That would actually steal them away are solid state batteries, which are at least 3 to 5 years away. They're still in their infancy. And here's where I do agree with the short report. When you look at the energy density of their batteries to weight in a small mobile device, it doesn't really matter, right? I do see a huge need for mobile batteries. That market's going to explode, even with things like with the VR, right? Like we talked about the Vision Pro, but also the demands that we're going to be putting on future mobile devices in terms of as AI becomes more prevalent. You need more power, which means you need larger energy density, and you need them to charge faster. There's only one company, or not only one, but the main one is Inovix. Once you start scaling that up to EVs, though, the Inovix battery becomes somewhat inefficient at that size. It's actually very heavy for the same. In other words, the same battery in an EV, scale up to an EV size, the weight of the battery would negate a lot of the benefits of using that technology. So personally, my bull case for Inovix is not even considering EVs. I don't think until we can get maybe EVs become so efficient that they need a small enough battery where it makes sense. But I'm looking at Inovix as a 100 bagger without EVs.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask you guys, and you guys never spoke on this. What did you guys think about the Mark Cohodes Twitter Spaces? I mean, that was very provocative. Dude, that was like really surreal.
Mark is super, super bullish on this company, like to the point where he was getting kind of animated a little bit. He's like, I don't give a fuck who comes up, blah, blah, blah. And
I'm going to put you in the ground.
And he's a short seller. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't go long. So
yeah.
I love how bitter he is. He's so cantankerous. And he just keeps talking about how, what is that one line? He's like, don't think that TJ Rogers isn't watching this. And don't think I'm not going to put you in the ground. And don't think it's just always, I'm going to put someone in the ground. You know what I mean? It's like
a lot of bodies. And that's why I like Mark a lot.
I love that.
My favorite quote, someone was like, well, Mark, what kind of position do you have in Ennovix? And he was like, listen, if this goes the way I think it's going to go, I'm going to buy Western Montana from all you guys. I was like, oh shit, this guy's serious.
I mean, what do you think about them? They're constantly and to Chris's point, to the dark side of the force, I will always, I'm natural contrarian, and my spider sense starts to tingle when everyone starts getting euphoric. Even on a stock that I'm very bullish in, I start retreating. Like, come on, what's going on? This is euphoria. I kind of ease back a little bit. But you heard them. They're calling for, like, very casually, like, oh, this is $100 stock, it's a $200 stock. And that kind of, I worry, because that gets retail people kind of just like, oh, it's $200 stock, I'm in, all in,
Might as well buy now, right?
Mm-hmm. But you know what, Sonny? But here's the thing. If it wasn't for TJ Rogers, and if we didn't see TJ take the company from, say, 93 cents to $300 and have that, and then you start bringing in other words, he's repeating what he's already done. At some point, you do have to give some weight to past success. Now, granted, Enphase is a completely different business model than Inovix, but the management team, the management style, as we know, you can say, I don't know what you guys would have weighted, but that's like 50% of a company's success is the management, right? And then there's all the other stuff. So if you're translating that over to it, these guys are fucking killers, man. These guys are straight killers, man. They are not fucking around. And even if you just look at the insider buying, that tells you everything that you need to know. They're not buying it like, I would say, like we see Noto and SoFi buying some shares here and there. I think that that's just for the public. That's just to save public face. But here you see everyone up and down the chain buying this company, insiders. That tells me that they're incredibly bullish on their own company, right?
Yeah, and also if you zoom out and kind of examine the message that they keep broadcasting to retail or to the investment community, they keep saying, Raj keeps saying, we've done this at a much more difficult level. Like a lot of their teaching, a lot of the material that they put out, promoting his, when he became the CEO, was him saying like we used to do this it was a lot more difficult what we did. Like I have this, it's okay. Like it's whatever. And sure, anything can happen. But what they're kind of they're kind of broadcasting out there is that they have the skill level, they have the experience to kind of scale. So fuck it, let's see what happens. Maybe we all go to zero, maybe we don't.
Guys, Innovix went public at $13.
The SPAC, was it? I feel like I had
I'm looking at their chart. I thought they were up a lot more. They're only up 30% all time. So
all time though. Yeah.
They've before the last, or really since January, like they've been terribly mismanaged. They've been promising the moon and missing it every single time, and then very much in the dark with why they missed that. So I looked at some of those past quarterly earnings and release statements, and it was just night and day difference from when TJ Rogers just said, okay, I'm just taking over. And it cleaned house, and bringing in Raj and AJ and some of these other guys as well. These guys
they just flipped their CFO as well.
Yeah,
literally a couple of days ago.
What do you think about that?
That was the one you were talking about, Chris. That was the new hire.
What's up, Patel? What do you think about that?
Yeah. Oh, I think it was great. The
Micron guy.
Yeah, the guy from Micron. So the thing is, like, when it comes to scaling a business, you have one part is your operations, but also another part is managing the costs of doing it. So if you can't do anything cost effectively, then you're going to end up in the same hole, right? So you kind of need both angles to make it work. Now, I'm telling you, TJ is lining up a bunch of killers at the top half of ENOVIX. So in terms of like following in the same footpath as like you said, Sonny, with the DNA of Enphase, I think it's the same exact situation where TJ has evaluated technology. He believes in the technology. At the same time, he's like, okay, look, this is a problem of scaling. I can bring in someone who can scale the business and then go from there. So, there are going to be investors out there who naturally want to get more into like founding a company and then bringing it much bigger. Whereas TJ seems to be like, look, I can see the value in companies as long as I can get the leadership to change a little bit and then go from there. My biggest question right now, and the research that I'm doing, is more along the patent side. Like, what are they doing from the patent side to basically protect everything that they're going to be doing into the future? And I think that'll be a big differentiator for them. But in terms of lining up great hires, I think that's good. And also remember, anytime you join a company, it's not purely for, oh yeah, you know what, I need a job. No, you're attracting away top talent from big companies, which means you're showing them your product and telling them, saying, look, this is what we're capable of. And they are actually buying into it. So if a guy like Raj Talluri, who was formerly at Qualcomm, if he sees potential in this, there's something there. These guys don't leave their multi-million-dollar bonuses, multi-billion-dollar salaries and bonuses and stock options to come to some small company without actually knowing that this thing is going to work. Yeah.
I want to point out what you guys said earlier, and I think, Sonny, you were implying this, but when I got more bullish, there was two times. One was when Raj went on he does these little clips, right? He explained that, oh, this is 50 times easier to scale this than semiconductors. And I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So when he said that, I finally understood that what he already did is 50 times harder than before. And I was like, wait a minute. I think this guy can actually do this, because semiconductors are really hard to make smaller as opposed to batteries, which are like, he's talking about millimeters, not micrometers or whatever. The second thing was when, which is funny too, was when I think they had the special meeting with, and I want to hear your thoughts on it, both you, Crossroads and Sonny. But when they had a special meeting with TJ, and he started to give the whole breakdown and fired everybody, hired everybody again, the stock cratered. I got my shares. All this is happening. I'm talking to Carlos. I think we did an episode. We're like, oh, this is like even better. This is more bullish for them. But the stock is cratering. Like the total opposite, as he's giving a whole plan for actual execution.
Oh yes.
And I was buying.
And I'm like, what?
Remember that
What's going on with
$8?
these people?
Dude,
Don't
it was
these
on the
investors see
day the stock?
he's
like,
fixing the
15%.
problems, and
Yeah.
they're fucking nailing him to the cross because he's fixing the problems. So what do you guys think about that?
And that's what Howard Marks, the observation you just made, you saw clarity during the chaos. That's what Howard Marks calls second level thinking. While everyone was freaking out and parroting narratives that this company sucks, you were just looking and saying, okay, this guy's just cleaning up the company. And he gave you a hard big boy talk. And now here we are in a better place. And then you invested. And that's why you're going to reap the benefits, because you were clear thinking, and you know there was logic in your thesis. You saw it there. Where everyone else freaks out. So
what did you do though? Did you actually end up buying more?
I was fucking buying so many
He was
shares. I was backing up
was
trucks. I had trucks lined up.
You were buying them on Robinhood, right?
No, never. I don't use Robinhood. It's not my thing. But yeah, I was buying because
Did you get personal service on Robinhood?
I've been buying. Not buying. I've been researching Enovix since 2018. Right. If you went to TJ Rogers' website, there was a list of companies that he is a lead investor in or on the board of directors of, and Innovix is one of the companies. And so and this is why Mark Cohodes, when he says that Facebook is the secret kind of battery, is the company that we have a battery agreement with, an exclusive battery agreement with. I read in 2018, Facebook was an early investor in Innovix. It was all there. They had a bunch.
Really?
Yeah, they had a bunch of white papers.
This is in writing?
On their website. On the Innovix website, they had a bunch of white papers.
Was that one when they were trying to do the phone, the Facebook phone, the messenger phone?
No,
I'm not exactly sure, but you could go on their site, and they still weren't public, and they were talking about this tremendous technology and a bunch of white papers. And I was like, wow, this is an interesting technology. If this ever goes public, and that's actually when the SPAC was announced, I knew it was Innovix. And I was telling everyone online, I was like, it's Innovix. Everyone was just like, but hey.
One of the things that made me bullish, I'm glad you brought that up, Vitaly. That specific meeting, that was when Enovix was publicly getting a lot of shit for not showing shareholder returns, and TJ kind of had to go up there and apologize. Everybody was fired, announcing the new management. But if you look at that presentation, he was a no bullshit kind of guy. He admitted right off the bat. He said, "I'm talking to you guys, the shareholders," and he was like, "This is not going to be good. This is not looking good, but this is what we're doing." And in his presentation, he gave very clear metrics. This is what I complain about Palantir, right? He gave very clear metrics about what needs to be fixed and how to be able to hold them accountable. That was the first thing that made me really bullish. I'm like, he's the kind of guy where I can see why people follow him, right? I can see why he's a leader that people follow. The second thing that made me really bullish which was really recently, actually. Did you see the video that they put out where they were showing the Gen 1 production versus Gen 2 production side by side in a split screen?
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. It was like 10 times faster to making this second generation battery versus the first.
And that was one of the things that got me. So in addition to what you said, and he had like where a shareholder criticized and said something, he's like, good concern, I share that with you, here's how we're addressing that. And then there was actually a follow-up to all that where he was like, hey, here's what we're actually doing, we've met all these things, here's what we're still working on. But there was a concern about the scalability. It's like, okay, you guys have basically produced nothing. How are you going to go from this to producing millions of batteries? And so with the Gen 1 line, which they have right now, and they've finally worked out the kinks in it, versus the Gen 2 line. And so in that, and everybody that is thinking about investing in Innovix or is already invested, you should watch that presentation. He has the side-by-side comparison as far as, okay, here's what Gen 1 is, and here's all the components to it. And Gen 2, here are the things that are exactly the same, coded, I think, in green, slightly different in yellow. And there's just a small portion of the line which they were doing basically by hand, which, you know, he put in red, and he's like, you know, the first, when they've got the factory and a partnership with YBS in Malaysia lined up. They're going to do it the first line, I believe, Q1 in 2024, if I'm not mistaken, and a line per quarter. And that one, he said, you know, it might take us a little bit longer just because the first one, there's always kinks to work out. But he was very realistic as far as the goals, the targets, and why it wasn't just a pipe dream as far as whether they'd be able to scale like this. And so it is very clear. And I'm like, you know, that's the last issue with this is they've taken care of the management. He talked about protecting and appreciating the capital that they've raised, which they've not done a good job at, and most SPACs don't. They just burn through that cash and assume they can just continue to raise indefinitely. Here, they're like, no, here's what we actually need. We don't need any more money through 2024. They're good.
But the short seller, that short seller report, they did bring up some good points, especially about manufacturing. Like one of the bear cases for it was that Enovix's batteries take very complicated machines to make, and making the machine that makes the machines is actually very costly and very integrated, or what's the word, difficult. And so that is something that I have to give some credence to the short sellers, the short seller report, saying, look, as they try to scale these things, any small issues that they have in the machine that makes the machines are going to be amplified along across a massive assembly line. So that's something that I wanted to throw out to both of you guys, because I have to say, that is a concern of mine. When I read the short seller report, I kind of have to agree.
So well, Carlos, that's one of those things that, okay, so one quick thing when we go backwards, the former CEO was also the founder of Enovix, right? Harold Rust. Now, Harold Rust was CEO for 14 years, okay? One of the things that I've noticed is, with the exception of a few companies, most founders, they do a really good job of birthing an idea into reality, but they have no clue on how to take it to the next level and scale the crap out of it. Because what ends up happening is everything along the way is something that's a learning process for them, right? Some people can do it very easily. Some people, it takes them a really long time. And every time a hurdle comes up, they have to learn how to get over it. And then it's the next step. Whereas guys like Raj Talluri, who've had experience for the last 20 years, bridging these hurdles, to them, it's like this problem comes up. They literally are waiting with like a hammer and a whack-a-mole, where they can just whack that mole, go to the next level. So I think what it is a lot of times we have, especially with founders, they have founderitis, where they think they birthed this thing into the world, so they should have total dominance and control over it. And what happens is they're always in this learning mode, right? But the thing is, when you think about businesses, you can't always be in learning mode. You also need to be in, production mode. You have to be in operations mode. Yeah. So when it comes to certain industries, I think founders are great. They should have definite input for a long period of time. But then there are other things where founders need to say, you know what? I've taken it to this level. Now I need to hand it off to someone who's been doing this for a while, that knows how to take it to the next level, that can go across and get over these humps in a very short period of time, so that this way I can focus on other things and stay in advisory capacity. Think of it with Tesla. Elon was not the founder of Tesla. The guys that invest, put the concept of Tesla out there, were just one piece of the pie. It's Elon Musk, with his ability to look for scaling, that was able to take it to the next level. And there's so many companies that are like that,
And with
Enphase.
Yeah,
Enphase was run by I forget the guy's name. He was a real smooth talking.
Yeah, but didn't he die? Didn't he die? It wasn't like a
no. He got kicked out. He got ousted by TJ.
Yeah, he got ousted.
Okay.
Well, it's funny. I remember there was a. I'm sorry, Crossroads. You have something to say?
Oh, I'll go right after you. I just wanted to talk about the scaling part, the manufacturing.
There was the CEO of Enphase. I forget his name. It escapes me at this moment. But I remember there was an investor presentation he did. He did a conference where he was talking about the ensemble, microgrid system, and you could hear whispers in the crowd. There was this couple who were sitting near the microphone. You heard that thing? Yeah. And they were like, oh, this may be a good investment. This is back, but he was ousted, and you brought in an operator like Badri. And when I saw that TJ Rogers shifted because Marjorie first was the COO. He was the new, he was the COO. Then he was promoted to be the CEO. And I tweeted out on StockTwits, the hated StockTwits that I hate now. I tweeted out at that moment, I said, we're all going to fucking be rich. And you can go back and find it. I've showed you guys that.
We've seen it several times already.
Yeah, I always gloat about it. We're all going to be rich. I said, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I think you did the same thing for Enovix. You tweeted out something similar.
We're all going to be rich.
Just because I'm seeing it, just because I'm seeing it a lot in the chat, and I actually wouldn't say I have a concern, but I do want to get a take on this. Is what is the realistic probability of them getting bought out? That's the first question. And the second question is, maybe you guys can help in the chat and answer. So who's the guy that's going to replace Amit in Audia, because he's the founder, and when is he going to get kicked out of his own company or bought out? And who's going to replace him?
Hopefully soon. I want to make a return.
Oh man, they're on you.
Those are the two.
Amit is the architect. Amit is the architect, man.
He's the guy. Right, but what you just said is the founder's not the guy that's going to take it to scale.
Okay.
So Amit, days are numbered.
No, I mean, I think that's true. Go ahead, Sonny. Go ahead. You got it.
No, I was just going to actually give you a compliment. I will say I've been watching Amit since, he started doing Palantir and videos. And he was doing really interesting videos about finance. I was listening to a lot in Portugal. This kid's been working his ass off. I mean, yeah, this guy's doing videos all the time, granted, but this is the reason we're all sitting here. We're sitting in this kid's tree. And something to be said to bear witness to some kid who has a motor like this, because I certainly don't give a fuck about getting online like the way he does. I mean, but it's really excellent thing to witness. And I applaud you. I thank you for your hard work, and that you've done well.
I appreciate it. It means a lot, man.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the reason I invested after one cheesecake meal was because I could see the motor. I could see that he's going to grind it out. He's going to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's why Chris and Vitaly invested. Now, granted, Audia is not where I want it to be right now, and I think that's the benefit of having some time to actually build this and being young and still grinding it out. But I think what Chris said about founders is correct to an extent, right? I think it's about the type of company. Like for Carp, I think Chris wants a more operator for Palantir, but
Carp, let's go.
The founder.
Man, let's go, bro.
I want the founder doing that because that's what I believe in. Now, Chris just thinks of it a different way. He thinks a Slootman type of thing would be better for Palantir. I think for yeah, I personally also don't agree with that. But I think for a social media company, right? Like you have to have a certain vision. So I don't want to get into it right now, but I have a certain vision for Audia that I truly believe is contrarian. And I believe I'm on an island, which is why I think these guys invested, because they saw what the difference is in the audio space versus what I'm trying to create. And I want to see that come through. And I think Zuck's had the same vision for what social media, the reason Peter Thiel invested in Zuck was because Zuck said, instead of fake identities, we're going to use people's real name. Every social media company from 1997 to 2003 allowed pseudonymity. And Zuck was like, no, fuck that. I want the data so I can target ads. So you better use your real fucking name. And Peter Thiel was like, holy shit. The whole world's going to use their real name. It's going to be a database of 3 billion people. Boom, I'm in 500 grand, right? And so there's certain visions you have to that extent. Now, for something like Enphase and Enovix, it seems like scaling a battery or a microinverter is not something that's like a vision for a founder. Right. That's where I think Chris has a phenomenal point. It's like you got to deal with supply chains. You got to really grind that shit out. And that's not some beautiful founder led vision. That's like a motherfucking operator, like a Raj Talori that could just get it done.
And so going off of that, Amit, that's why I see it's very different for Innovix versus like an Amprius. They're one of those that actually are looking at targeting the smaller battery market as well. And they have these silicon nanowire things that they're growing. And to Carlos's point, they're looking at building manufacturing. I believe it's in Denver, Colorado. I know it's in Colorado somewhere. And the technology that they're using for that is basically existing fabs. They're making some tweaks and changes. But if you look at the actual management that they have and you compare it, it's like looking at baseball teams and you're looking at like some World Series winning team versus like a single A, people that have never proven anything. Doesn't mean that they can't actually make progress in that. But if you're going to, even if you were going to ignore that, if you're going to take something like batteries and look at, okay, well, what is going to be most cost effective to manufacture at? Would that be Denver, Colorado, or would that be someplace like Malaysia?
Interesting.
Well,
I'd rather go with Malaysia. I mean, the cost of
exactly
yeah.
the cost
Yes.
of labor and just real estate space. I can imagine, and also I would imagine the governments, there are a lot more lax with them, and probably even like environmentally, right? They don't have as much red tape. That would be my guess. I'm sure Chris.
Not only that, but you can iterate more money. You can use the money that you are going to utilize to iterate more, where you're trying new things, failing, trying new things, failing again. That's the thing with any time when you're trying to do something new, there's no written blueprint on how to do it. Right. So if you say like, okay, yeah, we want to bring manufacturing to the US, I'm all for it. But the thing is, like, when it comes to trying to do something new, it's going to be very hard to do it in the US because just the way that our capital structure is built. Whereas something in Malaysia, it's like, oh, you know what? Let's go there. Let's try this production. If it doesn't work, try another one. If it doesn't work, try another one. And there's a lot more people with semiconductor manufacturing experience in Southeast Asia than there is in the US because we hollowed out our manufacturing capacity. We do a lot of great, like the US is known for semiconductor design, but not manufacturing. So you need a lot more hands on that side of the pond.
And
I was
that's
just gonna
exactly
say, by the way. Oh, please put it.
that's exactly what they're following is that semiconductor protocol. They're thinking of this as in terms of semiconductors, and you can see that with the way that they're building their manufacturing, the way that they're laying out their plants. And as far as Malaysia, YBS has direct ties to the Malaysian government as well. Like they go back and forth. So I don't foresee there being any issues with that. It might take like an extra quarter than is anticipated, but man, it's not part of the bear case. Sorry, Sonny.
No, please. We don't understand. Let's be real, gentlemen. We don't know what the fuck is going on in Malaysia. This is Raj, and I forget the other guy's name, the CEO, Amaranth, whatever his name is. AJ. These people have been playing in that sandbox for decades. They have people over there. They go there and pimp around, like they know the streets, they know the whole companies and all this stuff. They are plugged in over there with the semiconductor manufacturing and the talent and what they're doing over there. We can't even really kind of speculate on. It's just that's another differentiation. I don't know what's Amperes. What do they do? Well, actually, I don't want to make this a competition between them, whatever, but. They're doing, like I sent this link in the private chat about people slept on that piece of IR, the laser technology that Ennovix is
you want to pull it up a minute?
Is innovating with. I mean, this just goes over people's heads. They're innovating.
That's what the video was. That manufacturing
Yeah.
video when they showed the level 1 and level 2. Well, what is it? Phase 1, step 1, step 2. The second gen is all being done with like laser etching.
Yeah,
and it was
it's like crazy new shit.
Yeah, it was insane. But this also goes like, it's like it's fine when they're making the batteries at the scale that they are now. I do worry when you scale this monster up that any small issue could have them miss targets.
Well, that's why you got Raj there.
Because but what does it matter?
This is nothing to me. This is not a big deal the way we're doing it. This is like what I did was 50 times harder than this. And he keeps saying that over and over again. So they're going to scale. Anything can happen. But not only that, another huge thing that has gone that's whiffed past people's heads is that they keep saying that there's more room for energy density growth. They keep saying this over and over again, like we see more room. The new kid who just came aboard the board of directors, Joe Malchow, I highly recommend whoever is invested in Innovix follow him on Twitter. He's been throwing out crazy tweets about the technical prowess of Innovix for months. He just joined the board. He joined the board with, on Enphase right in 2020, right before they blew up. He's got machine learning expertise. That's his thing. He's a venture guy. He's a software guy. And he's saying that there's so much room for energy density. So we're not stopping. Supposedly we're 5 years in advance of the field now. That also went over people's heads. And then the lead just keeps increasing, or we don't stay static. So let's see.
I think to your point earlier,
fucking ball out.
To your point earlier, so battery growth, if no one's been following it for like 20, 30 years, has been this sort of slow potential. Now we're reaching a point where these companies are going to start going vertical. And we don't know what that means when you go vertical because people are not good at exponentials, right? So this is going to be interesting what happens if battery density starts to increase vertically. And it's just the beginning of what they're saying, doubling of energy density. I mean, the sky's the limit, honestly, because the only people who are going to suffer, in my opinion, are the old companies, not Empress, not Enovix, not whoever else is coming down the line, because those guys, either they buy out Enovix or whoever, I think we wanted to talk about it too, buying them out, but they need to get into the game at some point before it's too late. Just like GM is now getting in too late and Tesla was allowed to lead. It's the same thing. It's the same thing happening with batteries.
What a dumbass move that was. What like an entrenched player. It just stood there and just like, no, I'm not doing it.
Dude,
while this guy, this genius runs around and innovates.
Think about the conversations they're having about destroying the EV1s, about literally crushing all of the EV1s. Can you imagine what those conversations must be like behind closed doors?
That was such a stupid move, and anybody could have seen it. Not some shrewd. It didn't take a shrewd investor to see it. Anyone, any kid, any boy or girl could sit there and be like, why are they doing this? Like, people love this car, and it's just an example of people who are protecting their monopoly or who are so entrenched in doing things a certain way that they refuse to deviate until it's too late. That happens in all walks of life. You've got to be flexible and kind of deviate and zig when you're supposed to zag, or whatever.
Well, the final owners of the final EV1s were at the junkyard weeping as their machines were being destroyed. I think Elon mentioned this in a recent interview. He's like, when you have customers that are crying at the junkyard as they're smashing your product, why would you ever take that away from them? Like, it was a huge missed opportunity. But if that opportunity didn't happen, we would not have the Tesla that we have today. We would all be.
They were having candlelight vigils.
Seriously.
For the fucking EV1. Idiotic.
Maybe if someone loves your product, you shouldn't just burn it down.
Maybe that's, I don't know. I don't have a business degree, but.
But they didn't see this future coming. They didn't see that. And I always knew that I always thought about the future a lot because I'm super into sci-fi. And as we ventured over the 2000s, I knew there was going to be a new Thomas Edison kind of figure. There would have to be, or a group of technologists that would come to the fore and push things forward, and yeah, Elon Musk is one of these guys. It's so beautiful to see these people come, to emerge. It's beautiful.
It's also evident. That's what's crazy, that people still argue about these things, right? Like, I still discuss Elon on a daily basis with people who hate Elon and what he's doing. It's kind of crazy.
Did you follow what happened? Did you see what happened to Amit on Twitter?
Oh, that was
no. I'm just saying, like, people who don't
really
follow
cool.
the space at all, like, either whether you hate him or love him and his political views, you can at least admit he has changed the course of history or the future, right? You can at least say that and say, I don't like it.
It's hard for people, bro. It's really hard. Like yesterday with this whole new Twitter thing he did where he's limiting people viewing and all this stuff. People are just like hating him for this. And it's like, I guess that's where we are differentiated as like investors. Like, we understand the dude's trying something new, right? And he's like, it might fail, but like, that's what it is to be an entrepreneur.
No, but dude, there are certain decisions that you don't have to agree with every single thing. Like, just because he's Elon Musk and he's revolutionized EV doesn't mean that you need to agree with him on limiting the amount of views on Twitter.
No, I don't think it's about agreeing. I think it's about having an understanding that the guy is trying.
Well, I get that. I get that. But look, in all honesty, yesterday was more mismanagement in terms of finances and not paying your cloud bills rather than the other way around. And you know what? Elon could have pocketed the cloud bills, floated it temporarily, whatever. But instead he chose, you know what? I don't care about user dissatisfaction. I care more about getting operational things in line, which it's a decision that he's making. But once again, that leaves open the window for guys like Zuckerberg and Facebook to come in and actually do some replacing. So I think we cannot have a situation where we put people on a pedestal so high that we can never be critical of them. And that's where I think sometimes people were coming after you because dude, think about it this way. 300 views. Okay. For someone who's not paying on Twitter, that's like 3 paid scrolls down.
No, to me, that's smart.
Hey, brother, you gotta pay. You gotta pay.
That's
pay the cost to be the boss.
First of all, by the way, I don't own Tesla. I've criticized Elon to the day end. So that's why the comments were like stupid. I'm like, I don't even own the stock. I think this was a fucking brilliant move. Every content
do
platform
too.
in the world says you have to pay. Think about it. The reason Facebook doesn't give a fuck about you paying is because they have 1 billion users. So the ad impressions they can give are just like infinite. Netflix, you have to pay. Spotify, you have to pay. All these fucking apps, you have to. YouTube, they're going to spam you with ads unless you get premium, right? You have to
Facebook
pay.
also, but Facebook also doesn't have the bot problem that Twitter
Facebook
does.
doesn't have the bot problem. And
Yeah,
no,
we got a
and-
super
and
bot
IG
problem, dude.
IG does
And
not have
also-
the bot thing.
because they use real names.
yeah, and by the way, Chris, the cloud thing you're talking about, I think that's a rumor. I don't know if that's true about they didn't play their cloud bills. What's not a rumor is absolutely there's a shit ton of AI apps that are scraping a fuck ton of data from Twitter that's incredibly valuable, building out their models, and Twitter's getting no upside in that, which is the reason why Reddit had to shut down their API last week.
Can you play the video that I wanted to share with you? Is speaking directly to this. Tell me if you guys hear the audio.
Coldwater Canyon.
Do you hear it?
Hollywood, and
Yeah, we
Yeah.
yeah.
I would record my take on this new rate limit controversy happening right now on Twitter with Elon Musk
I'm
limiting
gonna play to the middle. Here, please.
Twitter 22 million. Hardy. So you're only off by 21.7 million. 3,000 was just the tip of the 22 million iceberg.
Okay.
No, you butthead. Actually, what happened was they used AI to designate 22 million because they scraped 859 million tweets to build their AI model, of which they said 22 million constituted misinformation. Okay, so yeah, the 3,000 was just the tip of the 22 million iceberg, because back in the Twitter iteration before today, these third-party censorship consortiums could just mass ingest hundreds of millions of tweets all at once in order to build these vast censorship models in order to control all of public conversation all at once. Now, look, at that time, they also had captured the trust and safety teams at Twitter. So it was very easy for them to build that model and then, basically target those 22 million tweets and all the, hundreds of thousands of accounts and have those be automatically throttled because they were controlling the actual enforcement arms as well. It's unclear if that continues to be the case, but the fact is that Twitter is by far and away the intelligence agency, the State Department, the Defense Department, and the NGO-plex social media platform par excellence. They much prefer the intel they can scrape from Twitter than from any other social media company, and there's good reason for this. I guess other than LinkedIn, I'd say, and they would say. And part of that is because of Twitter is not a walled garden like Facebook. Facebook is also a social media platform, obviously, but it's most private accounts you can only access if you are friends with that person or friends of a friend. Twitter did not have that.
That's true.
And YouTube there's a giant divide between producers and consumers. Consumers on YouTube are not content creators. That's not the case on Twitter. Every Twitter user is a content creator when they click the retweet button. And so you can map real-time narrative emergence on Twitter in a way that you can't do on any other social media platform. And that has been used by the CIA, the State Department, the Defense Department, hundreds of censorship, government-funded NGOs, centers, nonprofits, foundations, universities.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Should he has 15 minutes left, I believe, right? Is that right?
Yeah,
Sonny?
you guys, look, I got dinner at 7:15.
I'm just making
It's
sure. What are we
6:18.
at? 15?
I
30?
appreciate you. Well, I have time because if I leave here at 7, I'm gonna hop on a Lime scooter and I'm gonna surf
I
through the
understand.
streets of the third arrondissement and get to dinner on time and meet my brother. And
Where are you having dinner?
Le Grand Colbert. It
Sounds pricey.
Does it come
it
with
is
fries?
pricey. It is very pricey. Actually, in English, it would be the Grand Colbert,
Hmm.
like Steve
You'd
Colbert.
be like, in English, it was the in and the out.
So I want to ask you a personal question.
Wait,
if you don't
well,
mind
I was going to ask a
Please.
personal question
Yeah,
too.
I
I was
love
going
it.
to say,
Hold
are you
on.
living like the
Yeah.
best life ever?
No, that's a
Because
sad
you're
question.
riding through Paris on the Lime scooter, you getting dinner, like.
Well, so the thing is, yeah, I do live a very, yeah, I'm very fortunate and blessed. I have an exciting life. I can travel around when I want to. I don't have to work, report to a job like anybody. And this is the part where I always diminish to so I can help with my own guilt. You're still a human being, man. It's still the world of atoms, and you still have, frustrations, and it's tedious hopping on a plane all the time, and packing and doing all the shit, and people still piss you off. I mean, whatever.
Does your family? I wanted to ask about the family. So are they aware how well you did, and if they're not, like, how do you deal with that dynamic? Because it's
I hope
obvious
they'll see
that
this
you don't
video.
have a job, like a normal 9 to 5. So what do they say to you?
Well, they know I'm an investor, and every now and then my mother will ask me. My brother's a fledgling investor as well, really smart kid, and I wonder if he's going to do a deep dive and find this video. So I'm hesitant, but every now and then my mother will ask me, like, is my son rich? Are you rich? And I'll just be like, Ma, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, I mean, look, what is rich? What is wealth? When does it start? When does it begin? When does it end? You know, it's like,
Is there a
Let's say-
reason? Is there a
Let's
reason
say
you
over
have to
5
sell your
million.
mom?
Let's have a line.
this is a good question, Amit. I would just say this from what I've observed about human nature and human psychology, is that people tend to get funny with around, you know, money. It kind of changes equations.
Yeah.
People look at other people differently. Like, imagine if you had a best friend, Amit, right? And he's worth, you found out he's worth $100 million, and you guys go to dinner. There's a part in your brain where you're asking yourself, he's gonna pay, right? He's gonna fucking pay. He's got $100 million. You know, you don't say anything, but it's just a part of the equation, you know? And it's just, when people know things like that or whatever, it just gets kind of, you know, let's just,
I went to dinner with
unknown.
Vitaly. I
It's
was like,
just
Vitaly's getting the bill. He's
I mean,
fucking worth
Vitaly
35
is
billion.
worth more than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I think you're
Absolutely.
wealthy. I think you're wealthy when you start saying, "What is wealth? What is wealthy?"
Yeah.
You know, at that
I'm
moment, you've
not
arrived.
saying that yet. I'm not saying that.
It's abstract. Yeah, you start
Right. When you
philosophizing,
start
you know, but-
talking, when you start saying, you know, money isn't buy you happiness.
So Sonny,
Right.
I'm assuming. I mean, I don't know if this is too personal, but I don't think you're married, right? Do you not want to get
Absolutely
into
not. Why would I do that? Why would I get married?
that? So that would fuck up what your
Sorry,
life.
I know everyone's married here. Sorry, I don't mean to say that.
No, but that okay. But now I gotta call you out.
That's
a
not
little bit.
married.
I gotta
I mean,
call you out a little
and-
bit. I gotta call you
Yeah,
out a little bit. You
I'm
try to
in.
put me on blast at the beginning of the conversation, but that was part of why we had the conversation that we did about meeting someone, right? And the different ways that you can attract a female that can complement your life and bring you what money cannot buy. You know what I mean?
I don't know if he wants that, right? I don't know if you want that.
I think
commitment.
yeah, everybody wants that. I mean, who doesn't want
Yeah,
that?
it's
wants
nuanced.
to be alone?
I'm a very independent person, and I definitely don't like being henpecked by a woman. I definitely don't like being, a woman is a responsibility that you take on. She also brings a lot to your life. Shout out to Chris Patel. I mean, everyone who has a wife, a woman enriches your life. It's a beautiful thing. But on the other side, you want that. You kind of want kind of things like that. But I'm also happy being independent and coming and going as I please, and not having people constantly call and check in with somebody. And what do you want? Come on, I'm doing something. I'm watching a TJ Rogers breakthrough video. You want to talk right now? What do you want?
Right, you understand, bitch? This battery doesn't catch fire. The fuck are you gonna offer me?
Yeah.
The hell you
You know,
got?
but what are you gonna say? I don't know, man. I don't know how it happens. It's surreal. Without going into any numbers or figures, but here we are, and I hope you guys all get paid and become, wealthy and definitely grab.
Did you have a
Innovix
regular
and definitely
job?
grab Palantir.
Yeah. Did you have a regular
I'm-
job before this? Before you were an
I
investor?
haven't had a regular job in so long. I was investing for a while, and then before that, I was, I had a job. I had a different kind of job. I can't really go into that. It's kind of, I had real estate. I would hustle. I was always hustling. Maybe I'll tell you offline. I don't want to say anything, but listen, man. Let's fucking
Alright,
everyone
but
here is
at least
investing.
let me lead to Inovix back to there.
Please.
So what is the plan? And on Enphase 2, people are asking, have you sold Enphase? Have you trimmed down the position? Did you use it to buy your other investments that you have now, basically? At what points did you do it? And to Inovix, what is the end goal for you, at least? When are you starting to scale out or
Right. If
diversify.
Coho starts to crack a smile at $136 a share, where do you crack a smile? Where do you go, yo, it's time to part ways with some of these shares?
That's a question I ask myself a lot, because as you guys all
Keep in
know,
mind, wait, we did the math at $136 a share. What was the market cap? The market cap would be $21 billion.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, it would be less than what Palantir's current market cap is now. That's at $136 a share. Just for perspective.
shit? I'm
well,
buying tomorrow.
so yeah,
That's
but my
136
cost
a share, dude.
average, my cost average is, I don't know, man, like $11 or something like that. So, and then, it's an equation everyone has to work out for themselves. When you like the technology, you like the company, it's natural to get very emotionally invested. And Enphase, I definitely was you know, after 100, I started to take a little bit here and there, but I still probably have, I don't know, maybe 90% of my Enphase position. I didn't, you know, because I still see, and TJ Rogers actually said this in an article. He said people always ask him about Enphase. Should they get out? Should they get out? People are always asking him, you know? And he said, no, there's a lot of growth left in this company. So this is the risk I'm taking. Enovix.
But are your sales based on a percentage increase in the share price? Is it a market cap number? Like, what makes you think that it's time to at least take some off the top? Because you have to, like, you're holding massive positions. Small moves in these stocks are tremendous amounts of real world dollars for you. So I think it's important for people to understand what the thought process is behind that at that level.
My thought process is a very bizarre thought process that I think other people, I mean, you can consider it, but I'm a very intuitive guy. I intuit things a lot. And I just can feel, you just can see common sense and just feel like, all right, let's exit this position. You know, I've made money. Let's not be greedy. Greed is a, you know, it's a hell of a vice or fault or whatever it is. So you just look up one day, and if it crosses a certain amount and you see how much you have, you say, all right, let me reduce this. You know, it's intuitive. Like when you were a kid going to the corner store, how many pennies you had, you know, that's how I think about it anyway. So Patel maybe had, you know, he's going to be in and out, he's going to be out, he's going to be in. So, you know, I got insurance.
So what is the Enovix play? When are you starting to trim at least? Do you have a number?
I mean, look, my average is 11. I'm look right now, I'm up. Okay, fucking heck. I'm up, you know, a nice amount here, you know what I mean, already. So, I mean, how can I answer, Vitaly? It's kind of like, if the things keeps growing and if we keep executing, why do you get out? I mean, you trim along the way, of course. You take out the initial investment, you know, but you got to hold on. I know a lot of people who got out of Enphase at 20, you know, and bailed out early. If the company's executing, if the market is growing, just keep an eye on it, man.
Difference
you know,
is, wait,
a foot, and, you know, take your shit out if you have to, you know.
Difference is with Enphase, it was very clear where the United States and where just energy in general was going, and you knew that even if it was at 1 or 2% penetration, you knew that, say worst case scenario, it's going to at least be 50%. So you have some idea of what the runway is, right? And because of the fact that they're dealing directly with installers, it's sort of like the same as having these military contracts. Once you get those people in the moat, it's very hard for them to switch because their entire business is based on Enphase. It's not necessarily as easy with Inovix, right? And so the path forward is not necessarily. We know that it's going in this direction, but we don't know that Innovix is going to capture the market share that we think it's going to capture. We don't know that solid state batteries might not come a bit sooner. We don't know that EVs might not need to be more of a larger part of their play in the future, and we don't know what that strategy is yet. So I think it's not exactly the same. I think looking
it was unclear with Enphase. I mean, I remember, guys, I was there when we were on the verge of bankruptcy. There were a lot of micro inverter players. There were competitors. It wasn't clear if Solar Edge was going to win out. You know, Trump became president. We had solar tariffs. We were attacked by shorts. There were, you know, the journey to where we are now was fraught with mayhem and chaos and traps, pitfalls. You know, it's always that way. You know, we don't know the path of Enovix. Do they have the majority of market share? You know, it's just, you got to sit there and monitor it. You have your thesis, you have your conviction, you have your C-suite, you have your patent thicket. And by the way, I meant to address this earlier. This is to Chris or whomever talked about patents.
Chris.
Maybe it's Crossroads, maybe.
Chris.
If you go back to the first investor presentation, they did like 20 minutes on the patent. And the reason I'm calling it a patent thicket is because I'm parroting what they said. I don't even know what a patent thicket is, but it sounded cool. So I'm like, yo, patent thicket, all of a sudden, you know. And they had a guy who used to work for IBM who's in charge of their patents and all of that legalese and everything. And they talked about it for a good 20 minutes about how impenetrable and how well it's designed and how they've been doing this. And I said, fucking hey, these guys are serious, you know? So it's just, you guys know, you invest, you feel it, you have your research, you have your conviction, and you stay on top of it, you know? And then when the pot gets so big, you can't be greedy. That's when the human nature comes in. It's like, all right, I got to take some off here. It's human psychology. It's your own kind of interior, you know, your flaws, you know, you got to navigate these things.
And we're not close there yet. I don't think. For me, it's probably a 4 to 5 year play, and then we kind of reevaluate along the way, of course, if something substantially changes. But with this process, as far as these smaller batteries, and I'm not sure if it works the same with EVs, but they're a bit further out with EVs. It's basically a 3-year process to move from where you send out samples of like 10 to 100 units all the way up to you're actually building them by design. You're sending out them by 1,000, and finally you're into the millions quality. And they've been very transparent as much as they can be with the NDAs as far as what their customers are. TJ has done a very good job of showing that versus where they were in 2021 for 2022, and it shows you really the future over the next 3 years of what to expect. In 3 or 4 years time, you know, they should be scaling, they should be profitable in 2025, and we'll see what happens as far as the smaller battery units. But I think at that point we'll also have a better read on solid state batteries as far as where they're at, because they're still very futuristic. They're at least 5 years out, maybe a bit further. We'll also see if Innovix is able to transition into the EV play by that time. So there's substantial upside here. I will say, you know, a lot of people are saying, where are you buying to? When are you? I have a much smaller position, and I used all my free cash to buy all the Innovix I could get. I said Innovix, man, I was trying to avoid that 2 weeks ago. So it's good timing. But I had to do my research on the front end. But it's a battleground stock, and so there's a very high amount of short interest. And there's going to be short attacks. There's going to be any little bit of bad news. It's a small float stock, so it's just going to crash and crater. And any little bit of good news, like we've had a lot of good news recently, it's just going to fly up. There's a chance. There's 2 chances I see realistically of me getting out earlier. One is what Carlos said, a buyout. I don't think a buyout is going to happen because this is a TJ Rogers company that has a TJ Rogers premium, and most customers are going to want, you know, one certain aspect of the batteries. They're not going to want the whole line and everything that they do. It's a possibility, but, you know, that's not a bad thing. It's like, oh, I've just doubled my money overnight. Cool. I guess I'll go into something else. It's too bad I don't get to see the whole thing play out. Or a short squeeze happens. Don't invest for that.
Oh yeah, 25% shorted right now, around there.
It really could. It's a small float.
I
love it.
The other part of this is, like, in the same way that that Meta went on an incredible hiring run for AI talent simply to keep them away from competitors. I could see a company like Apple just acquiring them just to make sure that nobody else gets the technology. Just throwing it out.
That could be.
I'd love that.
Strategically, you just buy them out at whatever the valuation is, and you go, fuck it. Now we have those patents for 7 years. Just throw it out.
Yeah, well, the patents are much longer for stuff like that. It's actually in the decades, if not almost a century, actually. So I'd have to look at the patent expiration, but I don't think that this company would be sold out for less than a 500% premium based on the total location where they're trying to go. So Apple would not be willing to pay $20 billion for this company, like, or even half of that, let's say $10 billion. It would be the largest acquisition by Apple ever. So I don't think Apple does a lot of small time acquisitions. They're not going to do big time. Now, on the other hand, Apple could do an exclusive contract with them that gives them huge margins, you know, but
that basically buys out everything, every battery you can make. We want it. You know,
And what you were saying before, we don't know the company. It could be Apple instead of Facebook. Although Mark Hoodies was talking about Facebook, and I didn't know about that history. I think Chris, you were saying, or maybe Sonny, that was saying about Facebook being an original investor. That's a possibility, a much stronger possibility, but those tend to be limited windows. But it's just kind of showing the significant interest in this, just because batteries have not improved at the rate of the rest of the technology. And so if I think, Amit, you were talking about this a while back as far as iPhones. I don't use an iPhone. I'm a Android guy.
You're a
But,
green bubble guy.
But like you look at an iPhone that is like 4 generations ago versus now, it's marginal improvements. But imagine that they come out that they end up getting either buying Innovix or just getting an exclusive, and they say, hey, here's our next iPhone. By the way, double the battery life. It goes from 0 to 80% in like 6 minutes. By the way, here's this Nell that we drive through the phone. Oh, look, no thermal runaway. I mean, people would actually have a reason to finally upgrade their stupid iPhones instead of holding it on for 4 or 5 years.
Can we also talk about the fact that the UK might force Apple to make the batteries replaceable? Like they can't do this sealed unit anymore. So now you've got Enovix being able to directly compete with other battery manufacturers, and they can show how much better your device will be with their product in it. That could be something that Apple's not going to like from a design standpoint, and maybe consumers won't like. But for us as investors, it would actually be really good if they did something like that.
Look, all I know, man, is a lot of shit could happen, man. There's a lot of variables, but one thing I wanted to say is advocating for being long a company that has a differentiated technology and a strong C-suite. I got into Enphase in whenever TJ arrived, is it 2016, 2017? It's a fog now. I can't remember it anymore. And they were crazy short attacks. I mean, the stock, I told you before, it retraced 50% multiple times. And being long, and the C-suite of Innovix constantly talk about the long. I mean, every company, Palantir, invest for the long term. Just hold.
Were you buying on pullbacks? Like for your initial investment in Enphase, did you just dump a bunch of money in at the 90 cents and say, let it ride? Or were you buying those pullbacks as it happened? Short seller reports, bad earnings, things like that. Were you buying?
I may have bought one, but I went like all in at 93 cents.
Okay.
So I was just like,
you picked a good price. You don't need to I want to ask you this, and we have this discussion, and it's not to shit on Chris. By the way, it's gonna sound like it.
I love Chris. Chris is so cool. Why not talking, Chris? Chris got the facts, man. I love you.
No, I'm giving you guys opportunity to shit on me.
No.
Go ahead.
The reason I'm saying this is because me and Chris always go back and forth about buying protection for your investment, and he knows I have a decent size Enphase position in Tesla. He's like, why aren't you protecting your investment? And I have my theory, of course. I've talked about it in the podcast. But Sonny, why have you never protected your massive investment? I don't understand. You're in a
ran out of money. He had no money left.
No, but you're in a totally different class of investor where it probably makes sense to protect that amount as opposed to not. So I'm actually going on your side, Chris, that someone like Sonny might have to protect it. I'm still trying to grow my nest egg, so I want it to go up as opposed to protecting it, if that makes any sense. Well, what about you, Sonny?
I don't know. Maybe I'm a fool. Maybe I'm doing it the wrong way. But I just see I see more growth in the company. I definitely see us going back to the highs, at least. There's just a lot of growth left. Solar has a very low penetration around the world. It's not just the United States, by the way. I think the stock was upgraded by B. Riley on Friday or something. And the upgrade was based mostly around the European story. We got Brazil, we got Japan. It's a long story, man. So to be jumping out of it so quick before the thing is ramped.
Well, we're not saying jump out. We're saying buy protection
or buying
So Sonny, without trying to put words in your mouth, I think I asked a few rich people that I know, like, if they buy protection on some of the companies they invest in, and they told me absolutely not. The hassle would be too much. And I asked them, like, so what's your reasoning behind it? And they told me very simply, it's like, I am so to the point where I am comfortable with living that I don't need to worry about a 50% drawdown in any positions that I have. Like, that is at the level which they are. Sonny has done exceptionally well. So right now he can tolerate a 50% drop to his net worth, and he's still going to be just fine. For someone like us who have a mortgage, who have like a family, a 50% drawdown on our positions seems like a lot more of a risk to us.
Good point.
So I think once you get to a certain level of wealth, your protection is that you are already so far out there in terms of rich that you don't have to worry about it anymore. Some people, on the other hand, they say, look, I just have I have a cash position that I know that I'm good for the rest of my life, which means that I don't even have to look at my investing portfolio. Some people will buy companies, they'll hold them for 20 years, not look at them, because they have the baseline comfort already 100% set. They don't have to worry about bills. They don't have to worry about taxes. They don't have to worry about, childcare. They don't have to worry about anything else. So when you get to that level, you don't need protection because you're like, whatever, fuck it. It's, this is like generational wealth. You don't see people with generational wealth buying protection. They're just like, look, I can face the drawdowns fine. Guys like us, Vitali, could you tolerate a 70% loss to your net worth?
He must not know that we're in crypto.
I know. I was just gonna say, dude,
bro, you heard my story.
You can't buy puts on crypto, though. You can't buy puts on crypto.
No, hold on. I've tolerated 95% losses and have not sold. And the only way to make it to Sonny's level, okay, if I may say his level, is through all the shit. And in fact, dollar cost average when it's tanks that much. It's not to buy protection and then spend money on protection when you should be dollar cost averaging into that.
But to Chris's point, Sonny got in at 93 cents. So I think that's his point. If you got in at Bitcoin at $1, it's different from buying it at 3,000.
Yeah, to his point,
I bought Bitcoin at 10,000. I bought it at 3,000.
No, but hold on. To his point, if you had bought Enphase at 93 cents and it went up to $150, then it tanks to $25. You're good. 25x your money.
Exactly.
Let's just use a random number. You put 100,000 into at $1, and it 25x's. Okay, you're sitting at what, $2.5 million. And if it tanks, you're sitting on what? You're sitting on, no, if it goes up to 100 and whatever, you're sitting on $100 million. And then it tanks, you only have $25 million. It's like,
so remember,
will cost you the same.
Okay, let's go back in time. Sonny, it went to $20. What did you do?
I just sat there because I knew that the story was like in the first chapter.
Yeah, but he was up 20x.
Yeah, he was up.
But I'm responding to Carlos's thing. He said it's different, right? It's different than the 200. What about the $20, the 20x? There you go.
Dude, he didn't sell that 20.
Guys, if you're gonna listen to anybody, don't listen to the junkies. Listen to the guy who's sitting here and who can buy the junkies. Okay.
listen. Look, the investing game is, as you guys are well illustrated, it's like Jenga. It's very nuanced. You pull one thing, something else happens here. You make this move, you turn left, something is true, then it becomes untrue. Chris makes a really good point. And I would say that's kind of the way I look at it. It's that way. Like if there's a drawdown, and there has been a drawdown. Like you guys don't know how much. We at the highs, what were the highs, Vitaly? 340. I don't even remember.
340 plus, yeah, 340.
And
so we're
Enphase?
Yeah. The amount of money you have in drawdown right now is just I can't even imagine it.
It's like it's just like, okay,
off the all-time high. Yeah.
Some days you're down, you're just like, okay, really? But it's abstract, it's numbers. But it's a fair point, Chris. But you know what? This guy Johnny, what's this guy Johnny?
Yeah, Johnny's been trying to ask a question, and I feel like he's been on this company since the beginning, and he's also been running the chat. Thank you so much for running the chat, posting the links on Twitters and whatnot. He wants to ask you about what I'm assuming is the gallium nitrate power solutions that let me see, just integrate
gallium nitride.
Yes.
Well, just a very quick thing. Gallium nitride is a material. So you guys all know about the Enphase microinverter, right? Obviously.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Put a link in the chat.
For the people out there who are unfamiliar, Enphase uses a microinverter, and the componentry of the microinverter are made of a certain material. The semiconductors and the silicon and all this stuff. Very short story. They are experimenting with a more novel material called gallium nitride. And that enables them to use less components, which therefore or thereby shrinks the microinverter. It can shrink it by half. I always thought in the future, I foresaw the microinverter being shrunken into a packet of cigarettes. Something like this. And with that comes more profits. The power stays the same and or goes higher on the microinverter. You shrink the microinverter. They cost less to produce. It's a virtuous cycle. So this is what he's been talking about with this thing. And people don't factor that in. Badri's been talking about Enphase iterating. They're about to drop IQ9 next year. It's like the iPhone, so we're on IQ8, the microgrid microinverter. IQ9 is coming, which will be, yeah, exactly. One more thing. And then they said they already have IQ10 in the lab. So it's just a company that's continuing to iterate, focus on profits. The profit margins are going to grow, and we had a long way. And I would definitely suggest to people to zoom out, man, chill out. Social media makes it so that every day we're like dopamine fiends, like looking at the stock and seeing every micro move and every tweet, and it creates this hyper kind of like psychological thing where you're just always in this thing about the stock. But
like doing videos about the market open every single day. I know what you mean. There's crazy people like that.
No one does that here.
Well, Amit is a unicorn, so he's supplying that service.
Yo, we
But
need
for a
him.
lot of
We
us,
need him. Honestly, YouTube needs
Yeah.
him. Who else is doing it?
we got to zoom out sometimes. You got to just be old fashioned, like the days of Warren Buffett, and kind of like, we'll go for a walk, man. The company's executing, and let them execute. Let this thing happen, and sip some lemonade, dude. Make love to a beautiful woman. Go for a stroll and do your thing, and let the dough roll in. Is what I'm saying. Pick good companies and relax a little bit.
Well, I think what you're saying is, to summarize it, you're saying, look, if you pick something good, you don't need to rush out of it or protect it, because you just have to wait for the story to unfold as it keeps executing and doing what it's already doing, right?
Well said, Vitaly. It's just that we're in this new kind of regime, this modern era of micro, hyper fast speed information. And what you just said requires more of an old school, naturalistic, letting the story unfold. I mean, these are human beings. They can only move so fast. They can't supply you with a new press release every day. They can't give you a new catalyst every day. You can't just constantly be this thing. It's gotta unfold. So one has to cultivate patience, I think, a little bit.
How did you get the patience?
It was natural. You sat and it's going to take time for these guys to let. I mean, how long does it take for you when you buy a house or a building to renovate it, to prepare it for a tenant to come in?
It's a year process.
Yeah, it's a process that unfolds. It's a journey. People should look at this as a journey. And I know we all want to make money. And of course, I know I can say this because I'm sitting here, in the ivory tower, and I'm just like, yeah, everyone relax, chill out. It's okay, 50% drawdown. Don't worry about it. But it's like, yeah, it just, I forgot what the fuck I was going to say, but just zoom out, man, relax, man. It's just too hyped up. It's hard.
And for
It's
those
hard work. Please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was when if somebody in the chat is like, I'm thinking about getting this company, do your DD first, and you can have the patient view as far as buying as well. You can DCA into it. Me personally, I'll be adding. I've got a pretty small position. The only reason why I threw all my free cash into ENOVIX when I did is I'd done the DD, and they came out with that press release. I'd already bought some previously about them beating their goal ahead of time for the 18,000 production, and the stock wasn't moving much. I'm like, this is the time. I'm going to shove some money in there. Everything that I had at that point, I've got more coming, but this stock can go and do anything. Like, we don't know what it's going to do in the short term. In the long term, I think we got a pretty good idea if they execute where they're heading. But just take your time. If you're feeling panicked, and the FOMO, maybe just take a step back and have that long term view. Look to see where it's traded before. We could see it back down quite a bit. We could see it go up quite a bit too. We don't know.
Oh, I'm up, baby. I love it. I was telling my brother the other day, we were sitting at a cafe here in the Marais, which is kind of like the hipster area of Paris, Le Marais. And I looked at my phone, of course, and I'm contradicting everything I just said. I'm like looking at my phone, thinking of the prices. I said, hey, man, we are up, brother. Look at this shit.
He's in Ennovix as well.
Nothing to say. Whatever that was totally contradictory to what you just said. But yeah,
no,
go ahead, please. Someone take over.
Yeah, it's like I've been married 21 years. I still look at my wife and I'm like, man, she is hot. So it's okay to do that.
That's lovely.
But you have
I gotta go to church and confess all the things I'm thinking of doing to you, honey.
That's lovely.
I still pinch your ass every day.
I mean, yo, you gotta do it.
Bro, I don't know. I can't resist.
resist.
I can't resist the urge to
probably
smack my
listening.
wife's ass. I can't resist the
That's
urge to
beautiful.
smack my wife's
Okay,
We
ass.
know
my
you're a
wife-
freak, Chris. We
my
know
wife-
Chris is a freak, bro.
Men are
Chris is a
pigs,
fucking
dude.
freak.
We know this, right?
My wife, every time she walks by me, instinctively just puts her hand out to take,
block.
in defense. It's an automatic.
She's like,
karate. If it doesn't happen, she's like, "Yo, what's up? Are you mad at me? Like, what's going on?" I'm like, "No."
You guys are in a good place because I got to see new ones. I got to see new. It's so refreshing and enlivening. But I want to get to where you guys are. That's a beautiful place to be.
Hey, you can get there when you're
No,
55, 60. Don't worry. Oh my God.
I talk to you.
That's the first time we had that on the podcast twice.
I love it.
I talk.
You guys
to
need to come out here and kick it. By the way.
Send the jet, bro.
Yeah.
But no, we talked about that towards the end of our conversation, and I told you what I think. I think it's out there for you.
I just want to preface one thing. I think there was this saying back in the day that when you hear it, it's just like, whatever. Like the first million is the hardest. You guys, that whole quote, right?
It's usually the first 100,000.
That's the first 100,000, but for Chris, it's the first million.
Okay. I mean, I'm going with inflation, but
Mr.
I
Wonderful.
always feel like now that I think about it, I'm like, like once you get to that base level, after that, you can be a lot more woosah about investing. I think one of the great things about investing is once you're at a certain level, you can start to just relax, and then clear your mind. Like one of the things that made me a terrible investor in the past was I always tried to do this rat race where it was like, oh my God, where am I going to get my money? Like, oh my God, I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose it. I mean, I'm still like that to a certain degree, but believe it or not,
the same.
I'm still but nowadays, as opposed to back in the day, like literally, if you go back 10 years, I was a lot more worried about losing money than it is today. I still make sure I do my protection, but I'm a lot more relaxed as an investor. So when I see a 20% drop down in the stock, I'm like, whatever, it's okay. I'll just dollar cost average, no biggie, right? Whereas if I was 10 years ago in my 20s, when I wasn't as, well off financially, it was always like, oh my God, 20% down. I'm never going to recover. What's going to happen? Like, oh my God, like, I've got this going on. I don't know if I could pay like this. And so I think that's one of the things about investing is if you get your home situation right, like you have your mortgage paid off, your car's paid off, like you don't have any near-term expenses, you have health insurance, all those things are things that once you take care of, the rest of investing actually becomes much easier. After that, it's just like fun money that you put into the market. You're like, if it goes up, it goes up. If it doesn't, whatever, who cares? So at that point, right now, I'm playing with the house's money. I'm not playing with my own money anymore. I don't know if you guys have gotten to that level, but that's where I'm at, which is a much better feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Who was it that said? I think it's Dave Ramsey, and I'm not often agreeing with Dave Ramsey, but he did say that every time you open up your portfolio and you look at it and you don't sell, you are reinvesting into that thing. So when you ask me, hey, why don't I protect my investment? Well, because I'm always reinvesting into my investment. So I'm always buying Enphase on a daily basis, meaning not actually buying the stock every day, but if I believe so much, I will keep my portfolio. I don't need to protect that thing. So I think that's what you were trying to get there. I feel that as you get more secure in what your thesis is on this thing, why would I need to protect something that I believe wholeheartedly is winning, right?
This is what you're asking me?
Anyone could chime in.
Oh, okay. All right.
This is an ongoing. This is if you watch WWE, this is like Chris and
we got to get on Palantir now. Okay,
Chris was getting there. He was basically getting there as he gets more cash and he makes more for the market. Big deal if it goes down because he still has his belief. He still paid his mortgage.
Tally, here's what Chris's point is. Chris's point is
I don't need to keep hearing Chris's point from you. Chris gave me his point.
I don't feel like you're hearing what he's saying. He's saying the same thing you are. He's saying, yes, you're going to buy some more. All he's saying is why not make some money as it drops so that when you do buy in on the dip to DCA, you have a little bit more.
I think Sonny should answer that.
That's all he's saying.
Yeah. Well, I was just trying to say that there's a psychology to investing. Once you get past your psychology demons, then you become a really fucking good investor. You know what I mean? Like there are demons. Sometimes people get over their demons much quicker than other people, and the quickest way to make good money and good returns in the stock market are understanding the companies that you like, but also putting yourself in a financial position for success. As an example, I'm glad you brought up Howard Marks, Sonny. If you look at Howard Marks, when he first started investing, like he got into like the investing world, he lost all his money. He was broke. Like he had to, and then he discovered bonds and value investing. And then he started Oaktree with Bruce Kirsch later on in his life, right? So these are the kinds of things like Warren Buffett didn't have that loss. Warren Buffett made good money on one company, and then he made a good decision on another and another. And then at some point, he became so comfortable with his life that he was going to be a good investor. The other thing about Warren Buffett was that he was never chasing the almighty dollar. He was always like, hey, listen, I have my house paid off. I have my small office in Omaha. And that gave him that mental clarity and that mental focus that honestly, Sonny, if there's one thing that I'm jealous of you, not that you've done well financially, is that you have this mental clarity because of your past success. Because you've had this past success, it's given you the freedom to be more explorative in your investing style. Whereas I think a lot of us don't necessarily have that just yet. And I think it depends on each person. Like if you're like living day to day, paycheck to paycheck, it's much harder for you to put your money into a company that's going to be speculative. Whereas if it's something that, you know, it's just extra money, you can do it. So for someone who's like making decent money, that's like surviving, bro, you should be buying Google, you should be buying Microsoft, you should be buying Apple. If you're in middle class, you're okay, you should be buying companies like Tesla. And then if you are so okay with life, bro, by all means, start dumping some money at some speculative names that can 100x on you, because that at that point, that money is just chilling and you can survive 100% drawdown on that money. You know.
Well, I think that's fair. But I also think, you know, if you're trying to grow from zero, you got to be going for growth. You got to be taking big swings.
Well, let's have this conversation, Sonny. These guys are trying to get me to buy Tesla at an $800 billion market cap. Chris Patel.
To be fair, we were saying at $150.
Let me set it up.
True.
Chris Patel introduced me to some options that were incredibly undervalued on a regional bank. I know it's not the most exciting, but nonetheless, the day I got in, me and Chris, we got in at a really good price. I take my 30 grand and I say, I'm not putting it into Tesla at $700 billion. I'm putting it into a company that simply has to go back to where it was before Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, where it was for 6 years. And then I will 4 or 5x my money. Whereas Tesla has to get to $900, about $1,200 to 4x my money. For someone like me at 25 who's trying to build a nest egg, which is Chris's thesis to me, it's like, hey, build a nest egg. Do you agree that I should go on that play versus buying and holding into Tesla at $700 billion? What would you have done at 25 years old? Because you said you're going for growth just now, which is why I'm asking.
So what I would have done was go into Tesla, not because it's the more efficient move. What you're doing is the more efficient move mathematically and time-wise. It's the shrewder move with logic, with reason. I need to invest personally in things that I'm super interested in, so that I can keep doing exhaustive research. And I'm just not interested in regional banks and shit like that. It makes me fucking like it makes me fall asleep, makes drool come out of the side of my mouth. But what you're doing is a smart move, and it's a strategic play. So to me, that makes perfect sense. If that's what you're doing, you're trying to ramp up, you're trying to like grow fast. That's the move.
I agree. And you know, their thesis is buy Tesla, buy and hold forever. And my thing is, it's not going to 4x by 2025, whereas these options will. And so, and we don't know if they will yet, but let's say they do, I would have missed out on like literally a lot of money versus waiting for Tesla and Elon to get their shit together and get FSD ready by 2025.
Hold on, you're bringing up Elon. What about Enphase, which is down? It's a 20 billion market cap. Do you not see, if you did options play for 2 years, that it can go your 4x as well besides a regional bank? Do you not see that as a possibility?
Just to be fair, okay, I did not advise Amit to buy into this. Okay, I said, look, this is an opportunity.
I think you told him to.
I did not say take this much money, put it into this.
I decided that, obviously.
Yeah, he decided that on his own. But here's the thing. When I see market opportunities where things are just completely out of whack, I don't mind taking the risk and saying, okay, look, this is mispricing at its best. Like you're seeing a company whose valuation has dropped precipitously. And believe it or not, it's the same thing. I'm actually thinking about doing that for Enphase. The problem with Enphase is that the options value is not enough for me to get excited enough because the IV is still really high for Enphase, right? Whereas when I was telling you guys about Truist, you could see that the strikes that I was showing you guys were just disproportionately out of whack, right? Which didn't make sense. When things don't make sense, that's your opportunity to get in and make a good amount of money. It was the same thing that we did when Meta dropped to $80. Like the market was not really thinking about this. So that was a whole thing. Now, I don't advocate that people try to do these, short-term plays, but if they do show up, by all means, you should have some capital waiting to invest in it. And also, Amit is coming from a different place. This is one of the reasons why I don't like to talk about options publicly, because Amit is living with his mom and dad. He has a roof over his head. He's got money coming in from YouTube. He's got things going on. His life is different than most people. This is a play that if it doesn't work out, he will be out of 30 grand. And it's a time sensitive thing. So if it doesn't happen within the next year and a half, 2 years, he doesn't 5X, he's 0X's. Okay, so just know that these are not.
To piggyback off of that, I think just to distill this conversation or this dispute down to what I think it really comes down to, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think Sonny and Vitaly and I are all three saying the same thing. The difference between what Amit is doing, Amit is buying the stock price, and we're talking about buying the company. And when you buy a company, you can withstand, your conviction is a lot stronger if it's an Enphase or Tesla, because you understand their trajectory. When you buy the stock price, any change in any deviation from your strategy could waver you and force you to sell at a loss. Plus, like you said, Chris, when you buy options, there's a time frame there. What if we have another pandemic next year? Everything tanks and your play is going to zero. Well,
that's the risk.
But
the point is, I'm young, and the point is to grow quickly.
I understand, but it is a massive risk that I don't think.
No, it's not a massive risk. If I lose 30K, it'll suck, but I'll be 26 years old. I'll get through it. That's my point. Like I have that time on my side means something versus Tesla.
Well, you've lost 30K. That's true, but you've also lost the opportunity for actual growth in a real company.
That's the risk.
You haven't just lost 30K.
You haven't just lost 30K. The due diligence on the options has to come in. And you either done it or you didn't.
But I just want to make the distinction that what you're doing is buying the stock price. You're not buying companies. You're buying.
I'm buying a company. I'm absolutely
massive bet.
I've done a crap ton of due diligence on the company. I know a lot about.
And look, and for the record, I didn't start fucking with options until way after I had already built positions and bought companies for a long time, for almost 20 years. I didn't.
Okay, Sonny has to leave, so let's at least say a goodbye. Thank you.
Yeah, take us out of here,
guys.
Sonny, what's your last word of advice to everybody here?
What's the last word? It's just shit, motherfuckers. You gotta my last word of advice is what I said before. Invest in things that you're interested in. That's my word of advice. Because you're gonna research everybody, and you're gonna have a good time. And it's not all about money, man. This is a journey, of ups and downs, of dealing with your own psychology, of making money. I mean, yeah, dude, it's like Chris said, I don't want to be this guy who's sitting here being the Buddha now. I'm so chill now, but that's what I'd say. Don't just be all about money. But like Amit says, man, he's on the come up. It's numbers, and he's trying to grow. And so there are many different styles, and it's whatever suits you and wherever you are in your life, but my final thing is invest in Palantir. I would say that Vitaly, Carlos, you guys are wrong.
I'm in. I'm Carlos is in, bro.
You should take him seriously. You guys
shots before I leave.
You guys respect him so much, but when he talks about Palantir, your ideology gets in the way. Like you should listen to him. If he's
first of all, I have a position, and second of all, I'm the other advice he talked about was concentration. I am not trying to be big. I am concentrating into a few big plays that I'm comfortable with holding. If I told you how much I was down, how much I was up on my crypto position, and how much I'm down, and I have not sold a fraction of a coin.
Should have bought some puts
because of that.
I just want to point out.
I'm gonna find you a mint.
We are listening. We are listening to Sonny. His main advice is buy what you're convicted in, and that you're going to stick to and research. If I am not going to research Palantir, even if I believe they're going to go up, it doesn't matter. I won't be the guy who's going to hold it till the 10x. It just won't matter.
Fair enough.
Enphase, I've researched to the point where the lower they go, the happier I get. I get sad on the green days because that means some people understand the story, and that doesn't make me happy. I want no one to understand the story until it's too late and I'm at Sonny's level.
And yeah,
okay, fair enough, man.
Sonny, I'm trying to find you in Cinque Terre, bro.
Oh yeah. Was that Chris who was talking about that? He's trying to go.
Chris, if you go, I'm gonna be so damn jealous. That's like one of my top 5 places to visit.
Japan is beautiful, man. I go there for a month every year. I'm going back in.
But he's going with his wife. There's a difference. You're thinking of it as a single guy. It's fun as a single guy, but going there with your wife, I don't know.
Very true, actually.
Cinque Terre.
That's a good point. Well, enjoy whatever you do, Chris. Look, you guys, it was nice meeting all of you. Crossroads, I hope I didn't suck the air out of the room with all of my theatrics.
It was awesome.
You know, I wish you all well, and thank you to the architect Amit for providing the platform. And I hope to talk to you guys soon. I'll be back in California in mid-August. So, and back in LA where I live as well. So maybe we can chat again on a better time scale. So,
well, what's your pod link? By the way, Sonny has an actual pod. You want to promote it here?
Oh, thank you for reminding me.
Put it in the private chat. I don't know if you could put a link, but we'll put it up into the main chat.
Yeah.
It's the podcast that I have. It's called Curious.
I got it right now.
It's not a lot of Inovix talk. It's more philosophy, right? Am I right?
Yeah, it's more philosophy. It's a place where I can talk to idiosyncratic thinkers.
Look at that word, idiosyncratic. That's what I'm fucking.
You just gave Amit a hard on right now.
Inner fucking card.
You can't use that until you're over $1 million market cap.
Idiosyncratic. Oh my god.
It's actually a word that I use on my podcast, like ad nauseum, and people start to mock me for it. But just talk to interesting people, contrarians, people who think differently, and explore their thought process, and have a sexy time, talk about sexy topics. And if you want to listen to an interesting conversation, come to the Curious interview series. The link is there. I sent you guys. So actually, I just shot a day in the life in Paris a week ago with a guy who works with me. So that's going to come out. You'll see my life in Paris and me going around and stuff.
Great.
Great. Very nice.
Voila.
Have a good dinner and say hello to your family.
I will, and I will say thank you guys for thinking of me and having me on the show. I appreciate you guys making the effort and reaching out. Thank you so much.
Well, dude, you were our first ever live show overseas. First of all, I think we're all incredibly honored and taken aback by the fact that we actually have an international audience, and I think this was a great way to plant that seed, to break that, to pop that cherry, let's say, of our international. And I hope you guys in the chat enjoyed this as much as we did, and I think we'll be doing this again.
Yeah, and I love the Finance Junkies. I listen to it every single day, every single morning as I drink my green tea. I turn on the Finance Junkies and listen to you guys banter, and you guys keep it.
Admit
up.
it. You're yelling at the YouTube. You're yelling at it like, oh, these fucking jokers, the finance jokers.
No, not at all. Not at all. I love it. I love what each of you guys bring to the table, and it's like, as you listen to podcasts, one of the things that makes it so alluring is it's comforting. It's like you have friends.
Yeah.
You kind of just listen and you hear their voices every day. They're there. There's something to that. So, it's that. Thank you. I'm actually coming to Denmark. Jan, I'm coming to Denmark with my family very soon, like a week or so. So
how do I join this family?
You're part of the family, Vitaly.
You're in it.
I don't see a plane ticket at my address.
Vitaly means more like, do you have a sister?
I don't actually. But
do you go both ways?
You want a Russian husband?
I'm the woman.
But and lastly, you guys, see there, my family, my brother just texted me. They're at the restaurant, and So I'm gonna go hop on a Lime scooter and fucking be like a bat out of hell going down the street to meet them. It's gonna be a sexy dinner.
All right, man.
Enjoy.
But
All right.
Put on a shirt.
anyway, you guys, thank you so much, and I hope to
Thank
see
you,
you
man.
soon.
Take care,
Appreciate
Sonny.
it. Means the
It was a
world.
pleasure.
Talk to you later.
It means the world to
Bye.
me as well. Thank you.
Thank you, son.
Don't forget to hang up on the stream.